It is Free Talk Live. You may dial toll-free to take control of the airwaves here. Our number is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. And live Saturday edition, we also have our Discord on-air call-in line rooms. They're open. They're available to you over at discord.lrn.fm. Joining you in the studio tonight, it's Ian.
And Mark.
Mark is back from Mexico from a whole month.
Yeah, I was
down in Central America.
Yeah, in Mexico for the month of February. And it is nice, I've got to say, to get the heck out of New Hampshire for the month of February.
I missed New Hampshire.
I missed New Hampshire, too. Yeah. But
I was only gone for 12 days, and it felt like too long to be gone.
It's cold.
It is a little chilly up here. That's definitely true. My foot was losing circulation earlier as I was walking the dog. So anyway, we're here for you. You can call in. You can bring up anything you want. We're going to start out tonight with this idea of civil war, that it's coming back to the United States, and it's actually hitting the news. LMT Online looks like maybe Laredo, Texas area. Actually, they're syndicating a Washington Post story. And we've had people call in to suggest on this show that they believe that there's going to be a civil war. Now, getting them to kind of identify who the sides are in that civil war, things get a little bit
dicey.
Yeah.
I mean, is the South going to rise again? Is it the Republicans versus the Democrats? Is it the white people versus everybody else? You never know what somebody's pushing,
they're imagining
when they're pushing this civil war idea. And to me, it sounds ludicrous. I would agree that the political system in this country is so divisive. It's just too much at this point for the average person to put up with, and they throw their hands in the air and say, "Screw it, I don't care anymore." And that's when people get these ideas of war. It certainly looks like the two sides, and there's always just two sides in these arguments, it seems. Mm-hmm. The two sides just can't get along. I was thinking today, by the way, who is the party of high IQ? Because we're told that the both sides, there's always a difference between the Republicans, the Democrats, the liberals, and the conservatives. You pick which one's the side of high IQ. Because I'm on that side.
Libertarians are pretty smart.
Well, yeah, you've picked it. The answer is the Libertarian Party, the third most popular party in the United States. The IQs of the voters and of the people that they run for office tends to be significantly higher. But nobody listens.
But wait, has anybody actually studied that?
Yeah, somebody studied.
Somebody
it.
has. They've actually looked and they've tested IQs of Republicans, Democrats, and Libertarians.
That's correct.
Huh? I had no idea.
Yeah.
I was just speculating.
Well, I read it. I can go, hunt it down for you in the break.
Well, what was the results between Republicans and Democrats?
It was about the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Normal. What would you expect? I mean, they got dumb people, they got smart people on both sides.
At a moment when the country has never seemed angrier, two political commentators from opposite sides of the divide concurred last week on one point. Nearly unthinkable until recently, the country is on the verge of civil war. The first came former U.S. Attorney Joseph DeNova, a Fox News regular and ally of President Trump, saying, quote, "We are in a civil war," he said. Further, quote, "The suggestion that there's ever going to be civil discourse in this country for the foreseeable future is over. It's going to be total war." Now, to suggest that civil war is going to happen suggests that actual violence is going to break out, that there's going to be some sustained violence.
Right. Politics is a threat on your neighbor. Mm-hmm. That much is true.
For sure.
Yeah. Anytime you employ the political process, you're willing to point guns at somebody and kill them over whatever the issue is that's at hand.
If you're trying to get your way, that is. I mean, some people try to get, out of the... They try to use politics to avoid having guns pointed at them. They try to lessen the scope of government.
But that's still pointing a gun at somebody and saying, "Don't point a gun at me." Right?
Well,
I mean, I'm not saying it's immoral, because it's not.
Well,
you can pull a gun on somebody who's pulled a gun on you, but the government is a gun.
Yeah,
ultimately, at the end of the day, when the Green New Deal, the moral majority, I don't care who your side is, it's pulling a gun out of your waistband, sticking it in your neighbor's face and saying, "You're not going to eat that hamburger," or "You're going to believe in Jesus Christ and we're shutting down this strip club," or whatever it is. That's what it's all about.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you employ the government, you employ the police. The police are people with guns. When somebody disobeys the police,
they will kill them if
they
necessary.
will ultimately, if necessary, kill them in the line of their duty.
It's sick. And it's something that, we all learned in preschool was not acceptable behavior.
Well, no,
right?
we learned that it's highly acceptable to the point that we normalize that behavior.
Well, no. We learned that you're not supposed to hurt your neighbor in preschool. You're not supposed to attack your friends that are the other people, even if they're not your friends, running around on the playground. We got this pretty early on. But what happened was the political process obscures the violence.
Yes.
Because people don't want to see the guns. While at some level they acknowledge the police have guns, they believe that, as long as they're good people and law-abiding, the guns won't be used against them. And, of course, as long as you do what you're told, as long as you pay what you're told to pay, as long as you jump through the hoops you're told to jump through, the guns won't come out.
Right. You're free. You're free to do exactly as we tell you. As long as you do exactly as we tell you, you live in the land of the free and the home of the brave.
It's true.
Obey, free person. Yeah. I mean, it's this amazing dichotomy that slides around in Americans' minds, and they simply can't see it.
It's sad stuff, and let's get back to the story here, because we're not going to end the coercive state tonight, unfortunately. So, he says there's going to be total war. The next day, Nicole Wallace, former Republican operative turned MSNBC commentator and Trump critic, played a clip of DeGenova's commentary on her show and agreed with him, although she placed the blame squarely on the president. Trump, she said, quote, greenlit a war in this country around race. And if you think about the most dangerous thing he's done, that might be it. What exactly? Now, look, I'm a critic of Trump, too. Okay, I'll try to compliment him if he does the right thing, and every now and then he does. But he's done plenty of things that are terrible, like killing innocent people in the Middle East, like his predecessors had done. But what did Trump do to greenlight a war around race exactly? Because weren't there race, kind of fueled riots going on during the Obama administration as well?
Yeah, I don't know. This is the narrative. So the Trump derangement syndrome, and I've tried my very best not to get involved in this. I didn't vote for Trump. Trump wasn't my guy by any stretch of the imagination. But I have grown to like him more simply because I feel like some of his policies make sense. Some of his policies are stupid. The idea of building a wall is dumb. You can't just build a $5 billion wall and leave it and not expect it to get torn apart. Yeah. I mean, they'll be at it with wire cutters and angle saws, the next day. Don't be stupid. It's a waste of money. You might call it a symbol, but I don't need your $5 billion symbol. Build a $1 million statue to Trump made out of gold in New York City. He'll be very happy. They'll be your symbol. Fine. But, when it comes to...
But that doesn't make him a racist. That's just wrong for him to advocate building a wall. It's
the idea is that he has said bad things about Mexicans and that, Mexicans are a race, which, of course, they're not. They're a nationality. Yeah. There's all different races in Mexico, and they have different ideas. Different people in Mexico have different ideas about the races in Mexico.
Imagine that.
Right. Surprise, surprise. They've got their own ethnic issues in Mexico. Trump doesn't display anything other than sort of an older person's, like the older you get, the less people are willing to give you as any sympathy around race. So if you, like my father, who was one of the least racist guys I ever knew, he had, black guys would come out to the house and work in a time frame that people would not do that. He was the president of the union, and, he had black guys and white guys, and everybody got their vote and all that stuff. But he would use the term colored person.
Yeah.
And it was an old term.
He was older.
Yeah, he was an older guy, and he used an older term. And
my grandmother did that, and she wasn't a racist.
Right. I prefer to use the term black.
Yeah.
Why? Because it's shorter than American of sub-Saharan African descent. One syllable versus like a dozen.
Plus, we had a guy call in and tell us, a black guy called in once and told us that was his preference, too.
Right. Well, I mean, so
I was like, okay, that's good enough for me.
But he doesn't get to say for the, he doesn't get to represent a race. And by the way, some people claim that, some people are parts of racism, some people aren't. Who knows?
Plus, African-American doesn't make sense anyway because there's South Africans like Carla Garrick, the former president of the Free State Project. She's a white lady. She's African-American. We're coming up here. It's Free Talk Live. It's Free Talk Live, and you can take control of the airwaves here. Our number is 855-450-FREE, like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. We've been talking about this idea of the so-called Civil War. There's is a lot of heated rhetoric out there about this idea of a civil war. It's time for it's happening.
Coming civil war.
It's on its way.
Not the existent one that happened in the past.
Yeah. So I want to get back into that discussion here. It's Ian and Mark in the studio, and we've got our Discord on-air call-in line rooms over at discord.lrn.fm. So feel free to reach out to us that way, and you can talk about whatever you want. And I do want to welcome a couple of brand new affiliates. It's actually been a really good week for new stations coming on board. KINN, AM 1270 and FM 106.3 in Alamogordo, New Mexico.
Sweet.
They are on board for our Saturday show, all 3 hours live. So if you're a newer listener there in Alamogordo, welcome to the program. We'd love to hear from you about whatever you want.
Are you in for a surprise?
Indeed. And also want to make sure you know about Bitcoin.com, because that's a great place to go if you want to learn about Bitcoin, because it's not too late. It's been around for a decade, but that's nothing in the history of money. 10 years, that's drop in the bucket compared to gold or silver or something like that. So don't feel like you're too late. Don't feel like you've missed out, because you can always buy a fraction of a Bitcoin. You don't have to buy a whole Bitcoin, because one whole Bitcoin right now is what, $3,800, $3,900, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
So you can learn all about the basics over at Bitcoin.com. They got a great Bitcoin Academy there, plus the latest news headlines. You can engage with the community on the Bitcoin forum, learn how to get a Bitcoin wallet, buy Bitcoin, and even learn how to spend it and more. Go to Bitcoin.com to do that. Let's go to Larry in Indianapolis, listening to WIBC-FM. Hello, Larry.
You know what? I wanted to talk about racism, but you're talking about a civil war, right?
Yeah.
I don't
Here's the problem
believe in it, but there are a lot of people
I don't believe in a civil war either, because all they're going to say is they say, look, all you people out there, you want your civil war, right? Then we're going to cut your internet off right now, and we're not going to cut it off until you come and surrender. They'll buckle their knees. They'll be in there begging to get their internet back on. There's not going to be any kind of civil war. But anyway,
I think
that's a strong argument.
Larry's right.
They'll buckle their knees. The problem I have with racism, how it's being expropriated. Here in the state of Indiana, the LGBTQ community is trying to expropriate blackness, the colored people who have really suffered, to get their point across and get some kind of extra protected class.
Okay, I don't understand what you mean when you say the LGBTQ community in Indianapolis is expropriating blackness. Can you give me an example of what that means?
Here's what I mean. This group of gay LGBT people, or whatever they are mostly white middle-class people, right?
I'll take your word
for it.
They're already white.
I've seen plenty of gay black dudes.
White. Yeah, well,
I think gays are just generally like a certain percentage of the... Larry, I think gays are generally a certain percentage of the population. I don't think that they're any more or less prevalent among whites or blacks.
But if that is true, Ian, then the majority of them are white.
Sure.
Here's my problem. I'm over at the State House. Most of the people that testified, the GLPT community, were white. And then the black pastors start getting up. The black politicians start coming along, talking as if these people, so-called classified minority, had went through the civil rights movement with us. That's what they acted like.
They had their own kind of civil rights movement. I mean, it was different, certainly.
Yeah, but they don't need to get black people involved in it, because they have not paid the price, and they have not earned any extra statutory enactments, because they are one way or another.
Well, in some places they have.
Before the law.
In some places, well, Larry, in some places, LGBTQ, trans, that kind of thing, they've gotten, I guess that's the T, but they've gotten acknowledgement in the law in non-discriminatory or anti-discrimination statutes.
It's still wrong, because when you're classifying people and you coming before the Justice Bar, and it's insidious, because you're telling me that I'm not as worth as much as he is. I was
Who's
over
telling
the
you
State
that?
House when this was going on. They're telling me that if somebody goes in and kills me, then the judge won't even be able to consider any extra sentencing on me.
Are you talking about hate crimes?
Hate crimes. legislation.
So they have hate crimes in Indiana?
They're trying to pass it through our legislature now.
Okay. Do you feel like somebody should, Larry, do you feel like somebody should get an extra punishment because they don't like you as they're trying to murder you?
No.
Yeah, I don't either.
You got to have hate. No, but you have to have hate. I don't care where you come across it. It's got to be a part of our equation. We just have to learn to deal with it on an equal basis. When you start picking out different groups and saying, you're GLBT or you're gay, well, how you prove you're gay? That's what I'm asking too.
Normally you just claim it. There are some things you could do. We can't really talk about it on the radio, though. Thank you for the call tonight. The toll-free number here is 855-450.
Larry's right. You cannot prove whether or not somebody is gay.
No, that's true. You can't prove it, but there are some acts that person could commit that would lend serious credence to the claim.
But if you accept the sort of modern PC definition of what is gay or what is straight, it's all happens in your head. What is, whether you're male or female, all happening in your head. I might be standing in front of you as a 48-year-old white guy, straight white guy, but in my heart, I'm a little black girl, right? Like it's just nuts at this point. Like there's no reality in the world anymore. Yeah. So I think Larry's absolutely correct that hey, this gets very difficult. I'm with you. I don't think hate crimes should be a thing. That murder is murder, robbery is robbery, assault, aggravated assault is aggravated assault. That's what I think what he was saying.
It could have been what he was saying. The toll-free number here is 855-450, free like freedom. But it sounded like he was frustrated by the government treating people differently. And while I may not necessarily be on the exact same page as him, I do agree that the government, well, first of all, I don't think they should exist. Coercive government shouldn't exist at all. But if they're going to, then they ought to treat people the same. I think that's true. And I don't think that anybody should be prohibited from discriminating against people. I mean, I think tolerance is a good idea. I think allowing other people to live their lives in whatever way they want to is a good idea. Because
I think it takes a very small person to assume something about somebody because of these whatever these things are. What are you going to assume about me because I just said that I was a straight white male? What are your presumptions about me? And whatever they are, they may be true, they may be false, because all you're doing is looking at statistics,
right? And that's what something.
By the way, I don't consider myself white.
Yeah.
I've decided that race is not of particular value to me. I think the people that yammer on about race they're just boring.
Those are the people that tend to look at statistics, right? They want to find statistics that back up their racist beliefs.
It's all about the statistics at that point.
The toll-free number, it ignores the individual. It ignores the person.
And for me, I'm all about the individual. I care about the individual's acts, the individual's what they've done, and so the race is meaningless to me in that way.
All right, so we'll get back to this fear-mongering about civil war, that the potential for a civil war some people believe is coming. And I think that's certainly the thing that Larry was the most right about in his call, was that take away somebody's internet access or their television or their sports teams or whatever, and actually, that might actually make them angry if you did that. Maybe that would make them rise up. More coming up. Free Talk Live.
Bitcoin.com is delighted to announce their latest partnership with the gift card specialists at eGifter. With many of the world's leading brands on their roster, it is now easier than ever to get the gift cards of your favorite brands with Bitcoin Cash. To get started, just follow these simple steps. Visit giftcards.bitcoin.com, pick the gift card you want, follow the instructions on your screen, and make your payment using your Bitcoin Cash wallet. Sit tight and your gift card will be delivered to you as soon as it's ready. That's giftcards.bitcoin.com.
It's Free Talk Live Saturday edition of the show. You dial toll free here. Is there a civil war on the horizon? That's what some people are saying. The toll-free number is 855-450, free if you want to join us here, 855-450-3733. We've also got the Discord on-air call-in line rooms over at discord.lrn.fm. And also want to make sure that you know about Forkfest. It's coming up in like 3.5 months. It's going to be here pretty soon. Summertime. Just actually the week, I guess it's the last week of spring, technically. June 13th through June 18th at the beautiful Rogers Campground in the White Mountains of New Hampshire. We will be there broadcasting Free Talk Live, and hopefully there will be a few hundred other folks. Maybe. We don't know what to expect because ForkFest doesn't have organizers. It doesn't have tickets. There's nobody in charge except you.
It's just a decentralized camping festival.
Yep. Earlier this week, we had Steven Zeiler from AnyPay.global call in and announce they're going to be having an AnyPay party tent basically there every single night during ForkFest.
Those boys know how to party.
It's going to be awesome. And Jay Noon, one of our co-hosts on Wednesday nights, has announced he's going to be doing what's called Man Camp.
I am so excited about Man Camp. Right? And there's nobody is going to be better at Man Camp than Jay Noon.
No doubt.
Just can fix anything. He can show you how
He's
to.
handy.
Yeah, he can show you how to prep for anything. He's just an amazing guy.
So ForkFest.party is where you can go to learn more about it. It's an unofficial website because everything's unofficial with ForkFest. You just decide what you want to do. Do you want to just go hang out with other liberty-minded folks, voluntarists, anarchists, libertarians, or do you want to create something for those people to do? Maybe you want to put on a speaker series. Maybe you want to put on a musical event, poker game, whatever it is that you're into that you think other people will enjoy. ForkFest.party. You can connect with others there on the ForkFest forum and Telegram chat room. It's ForkFest, F-O-R-K, ForkFest.party as we go to the phones. And more on this Civil War concept coming up here in moments. Franklin is on the line listening to WQXL in Columbia, South Carolina. Hello, Franklin.
How's it going?
Hey, you're on the air.
I just wanted to touch on something the last caller mentioned. He made a quip about if there were a civil war, the government would just cut off internet and everyone would be begging for them to turn it back on, and that would be the end of the war.
I thought it was clever.
I obviously think that there are a lot of things that are not worth fighting for, and that I think the context of the Civil War being around race is a bit ridiculous and not likely, thankfully. But in this country, we've heard so much about the revolution and these men that fought for what they felt was right. But I'm seeing so many injustices and moral wrongs being perpetrated by our government. But it seems like there's so much complacency in our lives and our day-to-day. I can get taxed out of the ass, and things are just not going well. Money's being spent on things I find immoral. And still I come home and have a TV and can relax, and there's plenty of food and all those things.
Right.
So I just wonder what your guys' thoughts are about where that threshold for rebellion would be if we didn't have those creature comforts.
Well, I think that's you hit the nail on the head, is that revolutions aren't fought by people who have full bellies. That's really what it comes down to. Is it's just funny, except in France, by the way. Those people will rise up over anything. And I have a certain level of respect for that, honestly.
Me too.
They consider their democracy, their republic, to be a participatory situation, and they're willing to protest. Americans, they don't do that. And, well, for better or for worse, Americans don't do that. Mostly, I consider what the hoi polloi, the democracy, the greater population want to be nonsense. Largely, that they don't know what they're looking for, that democracy is just pitting groups against each other and it's just a system for creating hate, for creating animosity,
and
for
the politicians
division.
benefit from that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what they want. They want to ping pong back and forth between a Republican and a Democrat president for the next X number of decades as they continue to enrich themselves, as we all continue to work to benefit them.
Right. They get more powerful, they get more wealthy, and we all get less free.
I think the only thing you can do to revolt is to withhold your money from them in some way, shape, or form.
One of the ways to do that is through cryptocurrency. You can take money out of the old money, old banking, government money system and put it into something that they basically can't touch. So that's one way to do it. The more you can do to make yourself independent from that system, I would agree, is definitely a good thing. Franklin, anything else you want to share tonight? Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess with that, that's a sad thing to hear in a lot of ways, that we just, as a culture, are so quick to trade what we view as right and worthy. I mean, I understand what you're saying about revolutions not being fought on full bellies.
I mean, look at Venezuela right now. They
were very wealthy. They were very wealthy men, and they
well, okay. The founding fathers, the ones that you
their
studied about, were from wealthy families, but there were people who picked up guns that weren't from those families, and those wealthy people screwed the hell out of the people that fought for them. Check out Shays' Rebellion afterwards. The rich people that took over the government of the United States weren't much better than the rich people that they took it over from.
Mm-hmm. That figures.
But can we agree that the government that they set up was better initially, at least?
I don't know. Let's compare it today. Is Canada significantly worse than the United States?
No, actually, it ranks.
So. I mean, I think
no, it's not.
They're, I would say, I mean, with the free speech.
Impact, they're not as they don't have as free a speech, and they have that their medicine is socialized. That much is true. But if you check out the Heritage Foundation, not exactly a liberal organization, and their rankings of the countries of the world, you'll find that Canada is considered freer, as is New Zealand.
Economically free. Yeah,
economically freer.
Yeah, but the free speech thing is a linchpin.
No, it's not. You've had free speech all along. Look where you're at. Slightly worse than Canada.
It hasn't made things more free, I guess, is what you're pointing out, Mark. That even though the U.S. has freedom of speech, you got guns and speech. The U.S. is absolutely the world's police force. It is absolutely the dominating force on the planet right now, and that's not a good thing. That's not helping freedom. That's actually impoverishing us and transferring wealth to the politically connected. And transferring wealth from the political system to military-industrial complex and other industrial complexes. So I mean, we're screwed pretty bad here.
No, well, I don't deny that things are bad in terms of economic freedom, and I'd like to look into that heritage study. But to negate the value of free speech, I mean, I think that really is crucial.
I'm not negating the value of free speech. I'm just telling you it hasn't resulted in more freedom overall, because it's not just the Heritage Foundation. It's also, I believe, Free the World, which
it's not the only.
It's Cato, but there's another organization.
Yeah, Cato does one too. It's not the only one that does it.
Canada beats the U.S. on both of those charts.
It also beats the U.S. in freedom of the press. It also beats the U.S. in rule of law.
In Canada, there's been with the transgender issue and the transferring or the gender reassignment of young children. That's come to light where the government is backing a child's decision and removing that child from their family if the family doesn't go along with the child's desire to have a sex.
This is what we call cherry picking. You're aware of that, right? You can find some. Look,
we can find all kinds of bad things about every government.
That's bad. You're right.
No,
I'm just saying that people who do this for a living, social scientists, have done studies, and they say
studies. Yeah, studies, meta-studies. Right?
Meta-studies of studies, and they find that Canada is freer. You can argue it that you don't like some things that Canada's done, and I will agree with you. I don't like some things the UK's done. I don't like some things that lots of countries have done.
We can go down the list.
I'll even go one step further with you. I consider the state, any organization that claims to rule a given geographic area, to be the most successful gang in that geographic area. They're nothing but a criminal organization. However,
all of them.
That doesn't change the fact that this study was done, and they found that Canada was slightly freer than the U.S.
We got more coming up. Thanks for the call, Franklin. I appreciate the discussion. Our number here is 855-450, free like freedom. Since we're talking about it, we might as well bring up the list. And it's not just Canada. It's a bunch of other countries that are higher up than the U.S.
The U.S. is 18. Yeah. Land of the free, home of the brave, number 18.
Woo! Go team. 855-450, free. It is Free Talk Live. Dial in toll-free to bring up whatever you want. Live Saturday edition is 855-450 free. That's the number 855-450-3733. Also, big thanks to Bogart, who is a Free Talk Live Gold Amplifier, which means he's given $10 a month to the Free Talk Live AMP program over at amp.freetalklive.com. AMP stands for Advertise, Market, and Promote. And the idea is, if you like the fact that we're on 197 now radio stations, that's a record now for Free Talk Live. We're hoping to get to 200 hopefully soon. But if you want that to happen and you want to help us make it happen, then please join the AMP program. Bogart's doing $10 a month, but we only ask for $5. So you can do it for $5 a month or Bitcoin. You can use PayPal, you can use credit card, or Bitcoin BTC. Over at amp.freetalklive.com, you get some cool bonuses and perks as a result of doing that, and we really appreciate your assistance. It's ampamp.freetalklive.com. As we continue here, before we continue with your calls, though, I do have the list of the Human Freedom. What is this? The Human Freedom Index is what it's called. It is by the Heritage Foundation. I think it's is this Heritage? I forgot. I think this might be Free the World. Anyway, it is Cato. Yeah, okay. So this is Human Freedom Index.
One thing is that these indexes are put together by groups of social scientists and professors and stuff like that, and they get sponsored different years by different organizations sometimes too.
So this is Cato and Fraser Institute. Those are the two organizations that were involved in putting this list together.
So we would call Cato mainstream libertarian. Fraser Institute, I don't know that much about.
Fraser Institute, I believe, is Canadian, aren't they? If I'm not mistaken.
I think they're foreign, but I don't know.
Go ahead and check that one on, if you don't mind, Fraser Institute. So this was a surprise to me after Hong Kong was number one on this list for years. I mean, we've been talking about this list for, more than a decade now, Mark, on Free Talk Live? It seems like we've been doing this for a long time. Hong Kong has been the number one country, and it's not really a country. It's kind of like a little carve-out of China at this point. But it, for whatever reason, is listed separately from China, and there's a big difference between Hong Kong and China on this list.
Yes, it is Canadian.
So Hong Kong is down to number 3, with New Zealand taking the top spot as the number 1.
That's pretty impressive.
And they're ranking, by the way, both personal and economic freedom here on this chart.
Which is a difficult thing to do. What is personal freedom and what's it mean to you? Freedom itself is a difficult term to define. What we define it as here on Free Talk Live is the freedom to do what you want so long as it doesn't harm somebody else.
Sure.
And when that takes on the role of the state, of a government, that means the ability of people to do things and a structure of what they want, basically, and a structure of rule of law that allows them to get recompense from their neighbor when their neighbor steps across that line, the line of not harming them while they're doing what they want. So that's how they should be defining it.
Number 2 on the list. Again, New Zealand, number 1. Number 2, Switzerland, having moved up a rank, I guess. And then Hong Kong had jumped down to number 3. Australia at number 4. Canada at number 5. The Netherlands at 6, tied apparently for 6 with Denmark. Ireland at number 8, because I guess they left out number 7 because of the 6
to tie,
6 being tied.
Two sixes, yeah.
So Ireland and the UK tied for number 8, and then a 3-way tie for number 10 between Finland, Norway, and Taiwan.
Taiwan's moving up the chart, and deservedly so.
They jumped up 7 points, apparently, or 7 slots. And then
Keeping an eye on Taiwan, personally.
Germany at 13, Estonia at 14, Luxembourg at 15, Austria at 16, and finally, up 1 from last year at number 18. They're now number 17, the United States, on the list of human freedom.
That deserves some applause.
Yay!
Good job, United States, moving up the charts. I mean, this is something I think is just news to Americans. It's done. This guy who called in.
Sorry, I didn't notice. Sweden is also tied for 17 with the United States, so it's actually not even in its own
17 and
place.
18. Yeah. What this gentleman who just called in, I can't remember what his name was off the top of my head, but he was obviously well informed. He understood history and these kinds of things. This came as a surprise to him.
Yeah,
because it's not getting talked about on mainstream media. Isn't discussing that the United States is losing its freedoms, that it's becoming progressively less free over time, that wars that are started by Republicans are largely the reason. Look, I am no fan of the Democrats. No fan of the Democrats. Not by any stretch of the imagination. I'll go so far as to call them economically illiterate.
Mm-hmm.
However, the welfare warfare state is what makes you less free. And it's the warfare part doesn't help at all.
Let's continue with your calls and thoughts. We got Terry on the line listening to WIBC in Indianapolis. Hello, Terry.
Hi.
Hey. You're on the
Can
air.
you hear me?
Yeah, you're on the air. Go ahead, loud and clear.
Okay. Yeah, well, like I say, your last guy that called, he was talking, and I've heard him several times now, y'all, where they've said, well, take away the internet and they'll scream and cry, and then all of a sudden the Civil War will be over. The internet has nothing to do with this Civil War that's coming.
You think there's one coming?
Oh, I know there's one coming.
What are the sides going to be? Who's going to be fighting?
Socialists and the rest of America who wants to be free.
So,
and if anybody can't see that coming, because I guarantee you, in 2020 or even 2024, you get a socialist Democratic Party in office, and they want to change all these rules, hell is going to break loose.
Now, wait a minute. Are you predicting that the socialists, who are already splintered into multiple groups, like if you look up the Socialist Party, you're going to find at least probably 3, if not more, different socialist parties out there. So are you saying that all these socialists are going to come together and literally fight a violent war against everyone else?
Well, your so-called Antifa people, they already think that's what they're fighting.
They think they're fighting they think they're fighting fascists, but I mean they're basically young people with pepper spray. I mean I'm not terribly scared of them.
Yeah, there's a little more than pepper spray. I've been to one of these places when they decided to come in and try to take over.
Really? What happened?
And trust me, they had some sticks, and they had a lot more than a little pepper spray.
Okay.
And they actually hurt quite a few people.
Where were you?
And unfortunately,
where did this happen?
Up in Michigan.
Was it a rally of some sort?
We were in Detroit,
and
I didn't even realize that there was a rally or anything going on, and we kind of drove into it. And they literally beat the crap out of the car.
Wow.
And the guy that was with us was like, "Well, let me get you out of here." And all I could say is it was very irritating to see. They want to show up, they wear their little mask, they hide their faces. Hey, come on out here and trust me, when it comes to time for a real civil war, those little boys, they're going to learn really, really quick just what men are about.
I would agree with you on that statement. That if there was a war between sort of the right and the left in the United States, that it would be, as Loki said in Avengers, glorious, not lengthy. But it's like just go to Google. Search, as long as we have the internet, we might as well use it. Go to Google, search Democrat voters, U.S. counties. And this is important. If you search states, you get a really unrealistic picture of the distribution of votes in this country based on, sort of liberal and conservative. And then consider that a lot of people who vote Democrat are not liberal. They're not socialist. Mm-hmm. They're, in many cases, ethnically disadvantaged and find the Democratic Party more palatable than the Republican Party. I don't think they should, but they do. And that's just a reality. So they're not going to fight for people who are spouting things that they disagree with necessarily.
You're right. They're not. And the group of people who are going to fight for the Democratic side are going to be the ones that are, and I say the Democratic side because this is, everybody puts it as Republican-Democrat war. It's not. It's socialist and then the people who want to be free.
Right.
In America.
I'm with you.
Are there that many of those people?
There aren't. And that's the point I'm trying to make is those people
there's not going to be a whole lot of them except for maybe out in California.
Right. Well,
no, I don't mean socialists. I mean people that want to be free.
There's people who want to that claim.
There's a lot more people who want to be free than you think. And I'll guarantee you, they call for a civil war, and it comes to that. That's how we're going to fight. There's a lot of people that's going to show up that you never thought were going to come out of the woodworks. And that's exactly how it will be. They're laying low and quiet right now.
Assuming that Canada, Mexico, and the U.S. military all stay out of this fight, and it's just individuals, you look at this map and you will see that there is no way to hold for the Democrats. They have no base. There is no geographic location that they can really hold except perhaps, the sort of the tri-state area around New York City and the edge in – no, they can't hold Chicago.
Los Angeles?
And the edge out in California.
Thanks, Terry, for the call. There's
and
more
they will
coming
win
up.
that.
It's Free Talk Live. Hour 2 is next.
And not to mention the shedding, I would vacuum the carpet 3 times a week. Frodo was scratching all night long, bouncing on the side of the bed, keeping me awake the whole entire night from all the scratching and chewing. It kind of makes you neurotic.
Does your dog itch, scratch, stink, or shed like crazy?
Mounds and mounds of fur all over the place.
Come to Dinovite for help.
DINOVITE.com.
If you want the dog to be healthy, you got to feed it something healthy.
Dinovite is nutrition.
The omega-3 fatty acids.
Flaxseed, zinc, alfalfa.
Our vitamins and enzymes replace the nutrients cooked out of most commercial dog foods.
He gobbles it up. He's not up all night scratching. His shedding is minimal, and it is such a pleasure to have my calm, relaxed, non-shedding puppy back. And I have to thank Dinovite for that.
Don't let your dog itch, scratch, stink, or shed like crazy.
Come to Dinovite for help.
859-428-1000.
859-428-1000. DINOVITE.com.
Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live. We're launching into the second hour of the program. The toll-free number here is 855-450-FREE, like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. The idea of a civil war has once again been floated, this time in the Washington Post. And the suggestion seems to be that it's going to be race-based, but we haven't even really gotten into this story. We also had another guy call in saying he believes it's going to be the socialists versus the people that want to be free, that there's going to be some sort of fight that breaks out.
The people who don't want you to have guns versus the people who do want you to have guns. I wonder who's going to win.
Now, I don't know at what point you decide. I mean, is it sort of you're looking back at history that, oh, that's when the war started? Because it's got to be one of those things that's going to be hard to know when you're like, when does the civil war between the socialists and those who want to be free begin? What is the starting date? What is the first battle? What is the first fracas?
Well, I don't think it's going to exist.
No,
so,
I don't either.
Yeah, I really can't answer any of those questions. But what I find is that, first off, people like this as a mental exercise. They like to think about it. Mm-hmm. And your mind needs to have things to work on. Goodness sakes,
sure.
We have to, it has to have things to do. It's burning a lot of calories. It's got to have stuff to do. It's like having its own little treadmill, this whole idea of a civil war. And wars are far more interesting than peace. As a peace advocate, when you look at history, you don't look for, I wonder what created this peace. You're out there running around trying to think about who started the war? What would an alternate history be? What would it be like if this war?
What if this other side won?
Yeah, right, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
That's the interesting stuff. Wars are interesting. Peace is boring. And and
you say that as a peace advocate.
As a peace advocate, I'm not saying that's good. I'm saying that that's one of the things that I have to run up against as a peace advocate is that war is exciting, and I think that this is a shortcut in our minds to the politics that is to come. The socialists who are advocating for more government are in the government, and the government likes people that advocate for more government. And we, those that want less government, have a big fight ahead of us if we choose to fight it. And at this point, a lot of people who want less government, who don't want to be involved in the government, are not fighting it.
Yeah, so, we can continue to pick apart what our other caller said, but let's get to Dashi on the line here in South Carolina, listening to WQXL in the Columbia area. Go ahead, Dashi.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Hey, good. You're on the air.
Yeah, I have a couple of points. Let me start with my first point. I joined the Army in 1986, and in 86, our targets were Russian soldiers, right?
Sure.
But what a lot of people don't realize is that in the U.S. Army, we train many of the other armies in the world. Case in point, I was in Fort Sam Houston, and I used to train Iraqi soldiers. They went to school here. Most of the South American dictators, they all went to school at Fort Benning, South Carolina. And I remember, I guess they call it indoctrination when you're in the Army.
Sure.
And they were telling us why we don't want to be like the Soviets, right? Well, for one, they had cameras on every corner. 2, they tapped every phone. 3, anything you said could get you killed. You know what I mean? And I was like, I don't want to live in a place like that.
Guess what?
9/11
it's
is where we
happening
live
now.
And it's so crazy because so many people that we trained or quote unquote allies with, we wind up going to war with later.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So
Saddam Hussein.
What is someone to get from that?
Yeah.
What we get from that is that socialist, Democrat, all that stuff, it really has nothing to do. It's all about economics. People in top, I don't believe they have a political party. Political parties for people like us.
Yeah, you got it, man. You absolutely have it.
Yeah, because we're against Democrats if it serves our purpose, and we don't want anybody to get together. If everybody was one party, there would be no problems. So the two-party system makes sense to keep power, for people who got money.
Well, look,
you said it earlier.
I have to disagree with you that there would be no problems. I mean, humans are constantly disagreeing with one another. If you put everybody in one party, you're just going to have an immediate schism. And even within the two parties, there are, divisions, right? So, like, whether it be a political party or whether it be a religion, for instance, you constantly see once groups become a certain size, and usually it's relatively small. Once groups grow to a certain size, then they end up schisming. They end up having a split. And in many cases, those splits are not healable. So, I mean, I don't think that it's true that one party would just solve all the problems. But I do agree with you that the divide is not what they want you to believe it is. They want you to believe the divide is Republicans versus Democrats when it's really them versus us. And what I mean by that is the government and the rest of us, the people who are in the state, the people who are using power against the rest of us, forcing us to do their bidding, whoever they are, whether they be Republicans or Democrats, forcing us against our will to pay into their system and to obey them. That's the real division, and that's what they don't want people to see.
I think a problem that I've had in the past is that, if you're a Democrat, right, you have to accept Democrat quote-unquote values, you know what I mean? And I don't subscribe to Democrat values. So in the past, I've had to, vote Republican because I have my values are more in line with that. But it doesn't, I guess ideology. I can't say the word right
ideologically.
Yeah, thank you. I just can't go 100% with that either. So I was always stuck. You know what I mean?
I feel absolutely the same.
Yeah, because I'm like, wow, like I don't believe in, there's certain things I just don't want to support, and so I don't want to be lumped into a group. But I just know I can't, in good mind. Let me put it this way: I voted for Ross Perot because he was like an alternative at the time.
Yeah, sure.
He wasn't a great alternative, but I just couldn't see myself going either way.
A lot of people would vote for a third party like Ross Perot because they just aren't. He's not the other guys. He's not. He's bad, but he's not as bad as the other guys. And the Libertarians. I was involved with the Libertarian Party for many years, and they are definitely right on when it comes to freedom. And I love freedom, and that's what it's all about for me. But you get involved in that.
Believe it or not, I learned about the Libertarian Party from your show.
Yeah, but the thing is, when you get involved in the Libertarian Party, it's an S show. I mean, it's just a constant groups that have splintered within the party, fighting against one another for control.
They have no power, and they're still fighting over power.
Yeah, and it's just so futile. Yeah. It's so frustrating. Dashi, anything else you want to share with us tonight? Go ahead.
Yeah, just real quick. I heard the guy Larry earlier.
Yeah,
and he was talking about how I think what he was trying to say, because he didn't say it right, but basically what I'm gathering, right, because I have an issue with this. I don't, people are free to do whatever they want to. If you want to be gay, that's your right.
Sure.
And if you don't want to be, I don't believe in this whole gay agenda where my kids have to learn about it until I'm ready to teach them about it.
Mm-hmm.
I feel that should be the parents' choice. But more to the point, what I found, at least in the Northeast area, and I found that they liken the plight of the LGBT community to that of slavery, and I don't think that's fair or right.
It's nowhere near as yes. I mean,
but they put in it. They're like. I guess they're saying like because I'm gay, we're brothers. No, you're gay because you're gay. Like we didn't go through the same thing.
Right.
You understand?
Yeah. Having an issue over what bathroom you have to use is not the same as having a taskmaster cracking a whip over your back, right?
Yeah.
From a horseback.
I think if you want to do your gay rights and you want to march and do it on your own accord. You know what I'm saying? That's on you.
Dashi, thank you for the call tonight, man. I do appreciate hearing from you, and thanks for sharing your thoughts with us. The toll-free number here is 855-450-FREE. Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, there's no doubt that it hasn't been easy to be gay and to come out of the closet for many of those people. I mean, I don't want to take away from those that have been beaten, for instance, right? Like within inches of their lives or possibly even killed. I mean, so there are some people who have faced some pretty severe consequences for being gay. But I mean, overall, as a group, nowhere near as oppressed as blacks were in the past in the United States. 855-450-FREE. Oh my God, I can't get my cake made. It's Free Talk Live. It's Free Talk Live. Dial toll free. Join us here. Our number is 855-450-FREE. Like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. Joining you tonight, it's Ian.
And Mark.
And the folks over at AnyPay.global have launched a brand new website. Now, AnyPay.global is the way to go if you are a merchant who is accepting or interested in accepting cryptocurrency at the point of sale. But they've made a site that makes it even easier. It's called HelpMeTakeBitcoin.com. So if you've been wanting to get started taking Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, just go to HelpMeTakeBitcoin.com. Pretty easy to remember that, right?
Yeah, HelpMeTakeBitcoin.com.
TakeBitcoin.com. And they're doing some cool stuff over at AnyPay. They got their brand new iOS app out. So those of you that have been waiting, if you've been waiting on, if you got an iPad at your point of sale and you didn't want to go through the process of having to load up the AnyPay in a web browser, they've now got an iPad app. So check that out. It's HelpMeTakeBitcoin.com. We go to the phones to the fun. Let's talk to Bobby in Indianapolis, listening to WIBC FM. Hello, Bobby.
Hey, how are you?
Hey, what's on your mind tonight?
All right. Your one caller was talking about when a civil war will start between the capitalists and the socialists, free market capitalists and socialists. Well, don't all wars start when the first bullet's fired?
I guess.
Way it did when the British fought the colonials. And the shot that was heard around the world, that's when the war starts, when that first bullet's fired.
Or they killed Archduke Ferdinand for, what was that, World War I?
Well, that's what it's blamed on, but it's
Revolutionary War, wasn't it?
Well, he was talking about a different one. But so maybe this. Yeah. I mean, I'm certain a capitalist has fired a bullet, or vice versa, at a socialist at this point. When which one of these bullets? I think is what Ian's asking.
Well, yeah, I mean that first bullet fire is really what starts the war when they face off. And you was correct in another issue about the freedoms being slowly taken away, like a right to free speech and expression. You've got the politically correct crowd out there, been out there for years, trying to stifle free speech because they feel offended over something. The Constitution don't guarantee any American citizen the right not to be offended, but it does guarantee the right to free speech and expression. You've got the blacks up in the air over slavery. Well, slavery was a necessity back in those days.
It was certainly a reality.
Let me finish.
I'm happy to, but there's countries without slavery at the time.
Yeah. Well, prior to the Revolutionary War, the colonists was under British control.
Right.
British, Spaniards, and Frenchmen was over in Africa, and African leaders was slaying each other's tribes and taking their prisoners and selling them to the white men and Europeans in Africa who brought them to the United States.
Yep.
Well, at the time the Revolutionary War started, the colonists, they had an internal enemy called the black slave, who was fighting for the British, the French, and the Spaniards.
That's because the British were offering them. Well, the French were on the same side as the colonists.
The British.
The British and the French were not on the same side.
Either way, it was after the revolution.
Well, the British were offering the blacks freedom in returning. You were saying they were offering
during the Revolutionary War.
To fight,
yep.
Yeah, the British was offering the blacks freedom to fight the Americans. They didn't even want them to be free, though. But now,
no, they just wanted some. They wanted some free labor and some free bodies that they can, send into conflict. But I mean, you're not making an argument that slavery was, what was the term you used? Necessary? What was the word?
It was a necessity. It was a necessity.
You have not made an argument for that. You've just simply told some of history.
Well, let me finish.
Okay.
Let me finish. We're talking about the American colonists, the mindset of the American colonists. He's not only got to fight the British, and the Indians in America to get independence from the British Crown, but he's got to fight now the blacks. So as long as he keeps the blacks in slavery, he's got them under control. And it lasted all the way to the War of 1812.
That same colonist could have said that, hey, y'all are free if you fight for us. And that would have gotten the same result.
Could have, would have, did it, but that didn't happen. It did not happen because they could no longer trust.
You're not making an argument that it was necessary.
And I don't view it as a necessity.
Thanks for the call tonight, Bobby. I appreciate it. Toll-free number here is 855-450-FREE. It's a belief that was wrong, and it was widely held at that time.
Yeah, slavery didn't start at the American Revolution or at the colonizing of the United States.
It didn't finish at it.
Or any of those things. Slavery has been with us since the beginning of the Agrarian Revolution. Everybody who's listening to my voice has ancestors that are slaves. I know that I've got some Mongolian descent. I suspect that came at the time of Genghis Khan and some Eastern European ancestors. I suspect it was rape. I suspect some people were drug off and put into slavery. Slavery happened. I suspect my German ancestry was probably enslaved by the Romans. We're all sons and daughters of slaves and slave owners. So I think it's something that at some point we're going to have to put behind us. I'd like to see it put behind us. I really don't like this whole.
I'd like to see racism go away. I mean, not just put slavery behind us, but also see racism end, and further put the new form of slavery behind us, where the government essentially has enslaved everybody to some extent. Because as we pointed out earlier, if you don't do what they say, whether they be Republicans or Democrats, whoever they are in government or whatever country you live in, if you don't do what they say, they'll kill you. So you pay whatever they say to pay. You do whatever it is that they say to do. Meanwhile, you get to look after yourself. So that's one of the differences, right? You don't have to live on a specific plantation. You can kind of move between these larger plantations, right? Countries, as you might call them. But wherever it is that you live, there's somebody who's master. Somebody, and they don't ask you to call them master. It's usually Your Honor. It's usually, the man in the robe, right?
Yeah.
That's Your Honor. Well, sir.
Slavery exists today in the sense that what you're saying is it has morphed. That we now have an organization that claims some of the fruits of our labor. Mm-hmm. That organization is known as the state, right?
Different percentages in different places.
Right, different percentages in different places. But ultimately, you live on a piece of land and you're going to, as a result, you have to give some amount of your labor as some kind of tax for things that you don't necessarily use. The most just thing they can do is make it so that that the state, only covers the bare minimum of things, and that you pay for the things that you want, like schooling and whatever else it is, medical care and these kind of things. But the problem is that we're told over and over again that poor people won't get these things. Well, do I have some obligation? Not to say that I'm not happy to pay for poor people to get things. We sponsored an orphanage in Uganda. But do I have an obligation to pay for a poor person in San Diego, but not an obligation to pay for a poor person in Tijuana?
We got more coming up here. Our toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. Since also we got the Index of Human Freedom, which is both personal and economic, we should go down to the bottom 5 or the bottom 10 of the list, and we'll continue.
Does your dog itch, scratch, stink, or shed like crazy? Come to Dynavite for help.
Order a 90-day supply of Dynavite.
Dynavite is nutrition.
Pick up 2 bottles of Lico Chops. Get the 3rd bottle free.
New improved Lico Chops with omega-3, omega-6, vitamin E.
And now, 6 extra direct-fed microbials.
Even better for the digestive tract and immune system.
Try Lico Chops. Buy 2, get 1 free.
At Dynavite.com.
DINOVITE.com.
It's Free Talk Live. Dial toll-free. Join us here on the radio. Our number is 855-450-FREE, like freedom. It's the live Saturday edition of the program. That's 855-450-3733. And also, we got the Discord on-air call-in line rooms. If you want to sound almost like you're sitting here in the studio with us, just jump on our Discord server over at discord.lrn.fm. Super easy to get involved in the Discord server, and most of the time it's just for chatting. In fact, that's what it is used probably 99% of the time for. But during our live show, you can use it to call in. But, of course, the chat rooms continue because there's different rooms on the Discord server in which you can talk about different topics. There's the On-Air Now room, which is the busy one. That's where most people talk about things when they're listening to the show. There's also one for cryptocurrency, one for gaming, and several others. Go to discord.lrn.fm as we continue here. Since we had brought up, or I guess one of the callers allowed us to sort of bring up these different studies that are being done of global freedom, both economic and personal. We've got the one here from the Cato Institute and the Fraser Institute, which combines both economic and personal freedoms into one score. So they've got 2 different scores for personal and economic freedom, and they come up with whatever the total score is for overall human freedom. And we kind of gave you some of the top on the list, and I'll just recap briefly. New Zealand has taken the top spot and taken it away from long-time top spot holder Hong Kong, although a long time they only did economic freedom, so maybe the personal freedom factor kind of changed things a little bit once they started factoring that in over the last, because I think this is newish within the last few years.
Yeah, Hong Kong's become more democratic in the sense that they want their opinions heard, and to my mind, democracy is really where you see the downfall of any real freedom, because it's nice to have your rights respected, but when your rights can be determined by the majority, you don't have rights anymore.
Yep, you're in trouble. And of course, as we've seen, just because you call it a republic doesn't mean that it's going to be much more respecting of rights.
No, just because somebody uses North Korea uses the term republic.
Actually, let's go all the way down to the bottom of the list and see how many republics there are. Let's see. Within the bottom 5, there's a republic.
Yes.
So let's start at the very bottom, number 162. Now, remember, there are some countries that are exempted from this list due to there's just not enough information coming from these locations. It's hard to discern, anything about them. So, like North Korea is a good example.
It's not on the list.
Of one of the ones that is not on the list. So, of the countries in the world that are ranked on this list, it does go up to 162. What is the least economically free ranked country in the world?
I'm supposed to guess?
Just take a stab in the dark.
Eritrea.
I'm not seeing. I'm not seeing that in the bottom 10 here. Just a quick glance.
Begins with an E.
Syria is
All
number
right.
162, down 3 spots from the previous year. However, it's making headway here, moving down the list as fast as it can. Venezuela down 4 spots in the last year.
The socialists will tell you that's the sanctions the United States government has put on them. I don't even understand this, like how you can look at this situation. Not to say that the United States government's sanctions put on Venezuela haven't been, a bad thing. If they weren't a bad thing, the United States government wouldn't have done it. However, you have to be an economic moron to think that the United States' sanctions somehow cause Venezuela to pump more money into its system constantly.
Right. Number 3, or rather the third least free, is the Republic of Yemen.
Okay. Well, a lot of these places are at war, but...
Well, don't worry. There are other republics on the bottom 50 here as well. Yeah. Iraq is the 4th least free. Libya, 5th least. Sudan, 6th least. Egypt, Algeria, Burundi.
I'm sure I'm glad that so many Americans fought and died for the freedom of Iraq.
So other republics on the list here, the Central African Republic at 152, followed by the Congo Republic at, looks like 136. And then, of course, don't forget the fact that the North Korea, which isn't even ranked here, is also a republic, Democratic People's Republic of Korea.
DPRK.
Yep. And, of course, China, I believe, calls itself a republic, and it's not doing so hot on this list either at number 135.
If you're a real good conservative, you always say Red China.
Let's continue here. Your calls and thoughts. You're welcome to bring up whatever is on your mind. But just a reminder, in case you're just tuning in.
And when you say Barack Hussein Obama, every time.
No, just a reminder, if you're just tuning in, the United States is at number 17 on this list. So it's in the top 20, but it's not near the top 10. So we continue with your calls and thoughts here. Let's go to Jason in Texas. Jason, where are you at in Texas tonight?
Texarkana.
Welcome. You must be listening to, I think, KFLS. Go ahead with your thoughts.
Okay. Just real quick about the government. I do agree on some points, probably most of them, about the government. But, I mean, it could be worse. Do you not agree?
That it could be worse?
I'm sorry, it's KTFS. I apologize to the other station.
No problem.
Anyway, go ahead.
We are allowed to pretty much, free speech to an extent, and we're allowed to progress and live a fairly safe life.
Safety is not freedom.
No?
No. You have to have freedom taken from you by these politicians for them to promise that you're going to be safe, but they don't actually make you any safer. So you just end up losing your freedom. I mean, look at the TSA. What a joke.
They should be renamed the water bottle confiscators. Yeah, I would agree with you. Certainly it could be worse. I mean, we're reading a list here of 168 nations. The United States is number 17.
Number 17.
Absolutely.
It could be worse.
It could be worse. They could be at 27, 77, or 137. Those things are true. I think that it is incumbent upon good Americans to sound the alarm that the United States is heading in the wrong direction and has been under both Democrats and Republicans for the last few decades.
Yeah.
That, while we wave the flag and say the pledge and weep as FA-18s fly over our football games, politicians have been hard at work taking as much of your money and as much of your freedom as they possibly can get. And so, some people will call me an anti-patriot. As a matter of fact, I'll go so far as to argue patriotism enables these thieves and shysters to do what they do. So, could it be worse? Yeah, 100%, man. The United States is a great place to make a living. Then retire someplace else after you've made the money.
That I have thought about, actually. I was in the military.
Good Americans often think about this.
New Zealand, number one on the list.
Well, I don't do New Zealand because of the cost of living.
And now what was number one on the list?
New Zealand.
This is
year.
the 2018 numbers from the Cato Institute and, Fraser Institute. Number one, New Zealand, followed by Switzerland, Hong Kong, Australia, Canada, Netherlands, Denmark, Ireland, UK, Finland, Norway, Taiwan, Germany, Estonia, Luxembourg, Austria, United States.
Oh, wow. Hong Kong and Thailand. I wouldn't have thought they'd been on there.
Hong Kong was very free. It was set up as a British...
Taiwan, not Thailand. I apologize. Taiwan.
The big difference. Hong Kong was set up as a British trading zone with China, and the guy who set it up was basically a proto-libertarian, understood what economic freedom was and how great it would be. Hong Kong has actually been significantly more free, and it's their new democratic movements that are making it less free now. Taiwan is moving forward because they, it's basically have had some good politicians elected up to this point, which means it always can change at any time.
Wow. Hey, that's awesome. Hey, I really
thanks, Jason. Appreciate your call, brother.
Get y'all's thought there.
Yeah, thanks for making the call tonight. I appreciate it. Toll-free number tonight, 855-450, free.
And this is the tightrope upon which we walk here, Ian, is that on one hand, we have to advocate for freedom, which means advocating essentially against government. On the other hand, people are going to say, well, if you don't like this government, which government do you like? If you don't like this government, why don't you go someplace else? It's the thing that's constantly said. And by all means, ladies and gentlemen, I will go someplace that is more free, significantly more free. I'm not willing to trade it for a little bit of this and a little bit of that. I like America. I grew up here. There's lots of things that I'm very comfortable with. But don't think that my loyalties lie with a nation that's going into ruins.
We got more on the way here. Our toll-free number is 855-450-FREE like freedom. You can join us on the radio, live Saturday edition of Free Talk Live. Plus, you can take control of the airwaves and bring up whatever you want. Free Talk live Saturday edition. You dial toll-free to join us here on the radio. Our number 855-450-FREE like freedom. Ian here with you tonight.
And Mark.
855-450-3733. We started out the show talking about this so-called civil war that a lot of people have been talking about. In fact, one of our callers tonight believes that there's going to be a civil war. And of course, you always have to ask, well, what are the sides going to be? So it's always a question I ask. And he says it's going to be socialists versus those people in America who want to be free.
That's correct.
And he assured me that there are waves and waves of people in America that want to be free, and they're just laying low, waiting for the right moment to rise up and use violence against socialists.
The problem is that people define freedom differently, Ian. They don't all define it as the way we define it. So,
sure.
We define it as the ability to do what you want, so long as you don't harm somebody else.
Yeah.
And really what I believe he's talking about is these, conservative types. And I do believe there's more conservatives in America than there are liberals. That the Democratic Party has plenty of people who are conservative, socially conservative, that vote for it. It's just that the Republican Party has done a dismally bad job of marketing to people of other ethnicities. And that I don't
Not
see
only
that
marketing to young people as well. What I've
that's
seen.
the problem.
Yeah.
The reason you can't market to young people is the Republicans have basically excluded, in many
their friends,
their rhetoric. I should say this differently. They have given a platform in many cases to people who are clearly anti-gay, anti-ethnic, anti-whatever, that it's out there.
An unfun bunch of people.
Yeah, an unfun bunch of people, that's for sure. And you as a gay person, it doesn't really matter what the Democrats' politics are. You know that they hate you less. Right. Fine. And who cares if I'm gay? Does it make a difference? If I were gay, I would understand that the Democratic Party dislikes me less than the Republican Party does. So you can see that why they would choose the Democratic Party. And as somebody who may find their biggest issue, or one of their biggest issues, because a lot of people just vote a single issue. As their biggest issue may be people who are gay being treated fairly. Well, they're liable to vote Democrat too, even if they don't believe the politics. Then the Democrats get to market their crappy politics to them.
So, if you want to reach people with the ideas of liberty, you can do it from the back of your car with libertystickers.com. You can reach thousands of people with a bumper sticker, and you know that people love to read them. So check out the vast selection of witty, poignant, pithy, and downright bombastic liberty-oriented messages at libertystickers.com. As we continue with your calls and thoughts, we go to the Discord on-air call-in line rooms, where Ala Loca is on the line from Orlando. Go ahead.
What's up, boys?
Hey.
Sorry if my internet in and out. I don't know why it's being bad, but
that's all right. We got you. Go ahead.
I just wanted to talk. Okay, great. I just want to talk about natural rights. I feel a lot of libertarians believe that they're born with natural rights, and I wanted to. Well, let me start off by saying I'm constantly learning as a libertarian, new ideas and different philosophies. But I'm at the point right now where I'm learning about natural rights, and I believe that there is no such thing as natural rights. What do you guys think?
Well, can we define natural rights, or can you define natural rights?
Well, to me, I think people think that they're rights, like you're given rights, and I mean, I want to know who's giving you those rights. Number one, I mean, some people would argue God or some higher being above gives. But at all that aside, who's giving you rights right now? Like,
yeah. All right. So you are dropping out on some packets here, but I think we've got the gist of the question is, if there are natural rights, where do they come from, basically?
Yeah.
Is kind of the idea. And you're saying you don't buy that these things exist because how could they have been given to you? Is that basically what you're saying?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Mark, what do you think about that?
I tend to like the notion of natural rights, but I don't tend to it's not the same as a lot of people that report natural rights. All right. So I believe in a creator. And I believe that creator, believed in something called rights. I believe rights spring from self-ownership. That I own my car. I therefore have the right to drive my car. I can do the things with my car so long as I don't harm anybody else with it that I want to do. And that's the same is true with my body. And so because I have my body, I can choose to do what I want so long as I don't hurt anybody else in the process. And that that is just a function of owning my body. So yes, I do believe in natural rights.
I think you're basically saying you're willing to defend your rights end where your defenses will let it be. Like you're willing to defend your life, you're willing to defend your car. I mean, up to a point, I assume. But your rights go up to how far you can defend it. Like my property rights. Who's to say someone can't come to my property and take something? It's only a mutual understanding that these lines belong to me.
Mm-hmm.
So,
right. Otherwise, you're the one who has to defend your property if that other person doesn't understand and agree with the idea of property.
Sure, and
exactly.
that comes down to the fundamental question of what is ownership and what is property. And humans have disagreed on this, animals disagree on this, but ultimately we do sort of agree that there is territory. Right? Like, when you're not on your property, when you are on your property, and that this has been true for many, many thousands of years, that it's taken this long to simply come to the point that we can define property. And lots of people have died over different definitions of property up to this point, too. So I believe that property is sort of written into our DNA, but we are still determining what that means as a species.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know there's a lot of people who believe that they need government to protect their rights, and I'm not against that completely. I just think there shouldn't be any coercion. I don't even know how you pronounce that right now.
Yeah.
Yes, to defend that. You don't need that. Let's say, for example, if we had a private insurance company defending your rights, let's just say, if they weren't doing a good job, you can get rid of them. If you're all supporting this insurance company that's protecting your your so-called rights, if they do a poor job, you can fire them. Unlike government that we have now, like that's why I feel like people have this misconception of like we can't live without government. I'm not saying there's not going to be any mutual agreements because we just already agreed that.
Natural rights are a mutual agreement, or rights of any sort are a mutual agreement between people. I mean, I've got an article up here from CRF-USA talking about John Locke, who wrote in his second treatise of government that all individuals are equal in the sense that they are born with certain inalienable natural rights that he believed were God-given and can never be taken or ever given away. And then he lists a few of those rights, including life, liberty, and property. But that's just an idea, right? That's just what one man said, and he said this, and a lot of people agree, and it's a good idea. I mean, there are reasons why we have these ideas, because they help people. They help us get along with one another. They help us have a more productive society. The idea of property has been beneficial to mankind over time, and respecting the idea of property and respecting the idea of a right to life and to property and to liberty has helped humans. And to the extent that those ideas are disrespected, it harms humans. And so if we can come to a society in which people believe fully in these ideas of rights, not any kind of negating of it, like you're saying, Alaloka, that if the government, for instance, wasn't coercive, which we've never seen that in our lifetimes, but if the state somehow was like magically not to be a coercive entity, I would all of a sudden have no real objection to pretty much anything they did, because like you said, we would be able to opt out of it. But in order for that to happen, we would have to change the paradigm of what people believe is acceptable as far as treating their neighbors is concerned. Is it acceptable to threaten with the violence of the government? As you were pointing out earlier tonight, Mark, the government is essentially a big gun that people fight over one another to try to get control of. until people can let go of the desire to control their neighbor, then we're always going to have rights being violated. It's just going to be part and parcel of life until people can get over the desire to have somebody else live the way they want them to, I think.
I concur.
No, that was my point, and I'm glad that you got to that end point. That's what I wanted to get with this conversation, was for people to realize that we don't need the point of a gun to
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. I'm going to let you go, Ala Loco. You were good for a little while there, but it started cutting out there toward the end. Maybe check your Discord voice activation settings when you get a chance. Thank you for the call.
All right.
Otherwise, it was mostly good. But we got more coming up here. If you want to comment, you're welcome to join us here at 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. We got a full hour to go here on this live Saturday edition of the show, whether you want to talk about rights or get back into this so-called Civil War concept. I mean, we got, 3 sentences into the Washington Post story about this. What are they saying about the Civil War? What do they know about
Civil Wars anyway?
It's Free Talk Live.
Business owners, you want more customers? Accept cryptocurrencies. There's people all around you just waiting to spend money at your store. If only you would take it. I know, you've been waiting till someone else makes it easy. Well, good news. HelpMeTakeBitcoin.com adds Bitcoin to your point of sale, totally free. Use the same equipment you already have, now with Bitcoin. And unlike credit cards, there's no fees. Let the guys at HelpMeTakeBitcoin.com bring new customers to your store. HelpMeTakeBitcoin.com.
Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live. Launching into the third hour of this live Saturday edition of the show with you tonight. It's Ian
and Mark.
Our number, if you want to join us and talk about a civil war, is 855-450-FREE. I don't buy it personally, and I don't want to see it, secondly. But it's Ian and Mark here, 855-450-FREE like freedom. We've got the Discord on-air call-in line rooms. They're open and available to you at discord.lrn.fm, so feel free to reach out to us that way. You'll sound almost like you're sitting here in the studio with us as we go to the phones and to your calls and thoughts. Of course, you can bring up anything. Let's talk to Mark in Indianapolis, listening to WIBC-FM. Hello, Mark.
Hey, how you guys doing tonight?
Welcome. Doing great.
I just called. I've talked to you all before.
Okay.
Thanks for the Bitcoin advice, by the way.
You're welcome.
But I spent 7 years in the Marine Corps, and I got to go all over Southeast Asia, and see how, things went in some of the other countries I went to, and the socialism thing. When I was in Russia, was still the USSR, and that it's like that's what we have fought against since, my dad was in World War II, and right after World War II was the Cold War. And I don't know if people know it or not, but the Nazis that was the National Socialist Party.
That's right.
And then the Soviets was the Union of Soviet Socialist Republic.
Correct.
And I just, the Russians the USSR rather, planned to take over the country without firing a shot through our education system and our youth. And I think they've done a pretty good job.
They've done very, very well. We've actually looked a couple times in the past at Free Talk Live over the last 16 or however many years it's been that we've been doing this now. We've looked at the Communist planks and the Communist Manifesto and kind of matched them up with the status quo in the United States. And what do we get, like 7 out of 10 or something like that,
Yeah,
Mark?
it's pretty high.
Yeah, but they've been implemented here fully.
I'm a history buff, and I don't know. My wife is a teacher, and she's thinks about things about like I do, but they don't teach that stuff in school anymore. They don't teach history at all. And
they teach their version of history.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
The one that lifts up the United States.
Social studies.
Yeah,
they changed it to social studies when I was in school.
I remember that. Yeah.
I'm a bit of a history buff too, and one of the things I find most interesting is the United States' greatest enemies are always people that we recently helped. The Soviet Union was, the United States went in and had troops on the ground in Russia during their red and white Russian Revolution thing that was going on there, and the Bolsheviks never forgave us for that, big problems after helping. Same with China. China was on our side in World War II. Then Mao comes along, exactly. And it just over and over again, whenever the United States helps, it seems to create more bigger enemies. And this is something, as a history buff, I like to point out to other history buffs whenever I get an opportunity.
Well, now, the Founding Fathers had the right idea, which was to say the U.S. should stay out of world conflicts.
And entangling alliances.
Yeah. And as you pointed out, it makes things worse to take a side.
Exactly. I can understand helping, like the situation in Venezuela right now, as far as with aid and stuff. But I was in Beirut when that was going on, and that was a joke, believe me. And
helping with sandwiches is a lot different than helping by sending in armed men.
Yeah, but when you're helping with sandwiches, it's just feeding one side in a civil war whenever you help, because the other side can never get them.
Well, but all that said, Mark, I don't think the government should be involved in any of that. I think that an individual, if you want to go down there and lend yourself to whatever movement or send money to whichever side that you think is valuable, that you think should win, or send food or whatever, then I think each individual should be able to make those decisions. Because then
I agree.
Then nobody can really easily be targeted. There's no one entity that did a thing. It's thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of individuals who could get behind or not behind somebody or some group.
But the thing that scares me, though, is it's no longer the Democratic Party. To me, it's the Communist Party, is what I see.
Some people are saying that they think the Democrats are going heavily to the left this year. Is that what you're seeing?
Oh, yeah. It's nothing like it was 5 years ago. It scares me.
It's interesting.
I worry about it. I've got kids, and socialism does not work.
Well, I don't think that there's any. I think that these predictions of a civil war are overblown. Fear, uncertainty, and doubt, and all this. I do think that we can't live together. I think that people need to make a distinct choice of a place that is best for them, like a physical landmass that has the kind of people that they feel like they're more likely to get along with. So, socialist types ought to move out west to California or, Portland or whatever. The conservative types might want to move to Texas or something like that. The libertarians, the voluntarists, the liberty-loving anarchists ought to move to New Hampshire. And, we should try different things. Have people sort of make a point, deliberate migration towards other people of like mind. I think that's probably what's going to result in the most freedom for the people that want it and the least freedom for the people that don't want it in that case.
Well, I think most people are libertarian without knowing it.
I tend to agree.
I like that viewpoint, and I hope it's true. And I thank you, Mark, for your call tonight. I appreciate you sharing your thoughts with us.
By libertarian, I mean the sort of the greater, if they were to take the world's smallest political quiz, which you can take at quiz.freetalklive.com, they would come out 80-80 or above. Mm-hmm. Somewhere in that realm, they'd fall in this large it's not a quadrant because there's 5 areas, quadrant that we call libertarian on the Nolan chart. Not necessarily that they agree with me every issue, every time. And frankly, I don't know what I think. I only believe in science. I believe we need to be able to test these things. But I can tell you right now, ladies and gentlemen, as you listen to my voice, you are not free to try a different form of government here in the United States.
Nope.
And you have to be free to be free. You can't claim to be free if you're not free. And if you have to pay, income tax and property tax and sales tax and all these other taxes to support one government while you try to create another, it's not going to work. Look, people have tried to create governments all over the United States. And sooner or later, the government rolls tanks in on them.
We continue here with more of your calls and thoughts. 855-450-FREE is our number. Dan is on the line listening to WIBC FM in Indianapolis. Hey, Dan.
Yeah, hi.
Hey.
You had a fellow earlier, or just a little bit ago, talk about, or maybe it was you, that every country our country goes in to try to help ends up with being a big enemy. I think it's intentional. I think our military-industrial complex makes a whole lot of money off of it. That's what I wanted to say.
I don't disagree that it's intentional. Can you tell me how it works? Because I just want a direction to look when I'm digging.
I wish I knew.
Okay. Yeah, you and I are in the same boat, floating around thinking, I think these people are trying to do this, but we don't know how. And I think the soldiers are duped. I think the commanders are duped. I think there's this elite cadre of weapons manufacturers that knows what they're doing, and the rest of us just don't know.
Yep, I'm going to go.
Thanks for the call, man. Appreciate hearing from you. Thanks, brother. 855-450 free. That's 855-450-3733.
Yeah, I wish I knew the tactics. I just don't. I'm a student of history, but this isn't the kind of thing that gets written about.
All right, you can bring up whatever you want. That's what we do here on Free Talk Live. We've got those Discord on-air call-in line rooms. They're open for you. In fact, somebody just jumped into one of them. We're going to get that person on. Your calls and thoughts also welcome. 855-450 free or discord.lrn.fm. It's the live Saturday edition of Free Talk Live. We're coming up. It's Free Talk live Saturday edition of the program. You dial in toll free. You bring up whatever you want. You take control of the airwaves. We can talk about this fear-mongering about the so-called Civil War. We still have that on the table to discuss. It's Ian and Mark here in the studio tonight. And you can join us online anytime you want over at freetalklive.com. We've got video clips now, and I'm really happy about it. I'm glad that we got Eric Freerock to come back out of retirement from his cop block days. For people that don't know, Eric Freerock, one of the kind of old school cop blockers, and he's a great video editor as well. And so he's taken video clips from the show, because we do a video version of the show. It's on Twitch right now over at twitch.lrn.fm. That's where you can watch it live, and you can of course watch it later on. We also have a YouTube channel, so there's video versions of the show. But honestly, sitting here looking at us in the studio, it's not that interesting visually to look at. So
he adds all kinds of video.
Right, he's adding video.
It's
he's
great.
adding still images, and really kind of jazzing up the show. Basically.
And these are things that are shareable. You don't have to consume a 2-hour radio program to get involved.
That's the idea.
Right, go over there, please, right now. Go to clips.freetalklive.com, clips.freetalklive.com, and subscribe to the channel. If we can get enough subscribers in there, it makes everything a lot better. So please, clips.freetalklive.com.
H. Reardon in the Discord chat says this guy Ian's talking about sounds like a Flintstones character.
Free Rock.
Free Rock.
Yes, it's funny.
Clips.freetalklive.com. We also are posting those clips. So as soon as they get uploaded to YouTube, that link shoots out to our social media, including our Twitter at twitter.freetalklive.com, our Mastodon at toot.freetalklive.com, and our Telegram channel at telegram.freetalklive.com. So whichever one of those you're following us on, whether you're subscribing to the YouTube channel itself, which is the Liberty Bits channel at clips.freetalklive.com, or those different social media, you will know where those clips are and how to find them and what the links are to share. And we would appreciate it if you do that. So we continue with your calls and thoughts here. Let's go to Ferris, listening in Indianapolis to WIBC. Hello, Ferris.
Good day, fellas. Ferris Freud, checking in from Indianapolis.
Hi, Ferris. Go ahead.
World's number one most often and widely heard caller broadcaster in talk radio.
That is a big claim. You're the most often and widely heard caller broadcaster, so not just caller, but you're also a broadcaster?
When I call and talk with you, I'm broadcasting in the same fashion that you are.
True.
Am I right?
That's correct. You're being broadcast.
True. It's all true. When it comes out of this mouth of mine, it's true. It's all true.
You're a broadcaster.
Credentials.
You're new to me, though, Ferris, so I had never heard of you before, except for that movie, which was really great, but I suspect you have nothing to do with that.
Understood. Yeah. Now, military intelligence officer, highly educated, very high IQ, member of Mensa. Just want to give my creds to your listeners so that they can weigh what I have to say.
All right, lay it on me.
lay it on me. We're in Indianapolis because the Catholic Church.
What does that mean? I'm not in Indianapolis.
Being a guidance counselor. What?
Okay, I'm not in Indianapolis. Who's we?
We, Ferris and Friends on LinkedIn. Ferris and Friends.
Okay, and because of the Catholic Church?
Goes around the country. We go around the country to enforce what's good and right and Christian. And what we've done is we fired a guidance counselor from the Catholic school in Indianapolis.
Okay.
Because she's lesbian.
Oh, boy.
And she does not deserve to be employed by the Catholic Church in the school because she is lesbian, because the Catholic Church understands that lesbianism and homosexuality are an abomination, and that type of abnormal behavior will not be held. And the Methodist Church last week told all the lesbians and homosexuals to take a hike and get out of the church, and there will be no more queer marriages in the Methodist Church, and that's why
Doesn't that mean they're just going to go to the Presbyterians then?
Let them go. No, what it does is it means
let them go. By all means. Queer people of America, go to the Presbyterian Church. Go to the Quaker Church. There are churches that will welcome you, not just nut jobs like this guy.
Do I get to talk?
Yeah, Ferris, you've been talking the whole time. Ferris?
Yeah, but with you talking over me, let me make my point.
No, get to it, smarty pants.
I'm getting to it. The Methodist Church has distinguished itself, and that's where Christians are going because we cannot handle these.
I left the Methodist Church because they were a bunch of closed-minded a-holes.
What does it mean to be a Christian?
Well, here's what it means. We're Catholics. We're Opus Dei Catholics. You ever know an Opus Dei guy?
Overstay?
I'm going to spell that O-P-U-S, Opus Dei, D-E-I. It's Latin. You ever take Latin?
Oh, Opus Dei. Yeah, I read about that in James Brown, the book. Brown, I don't know what it was. I read it years ago.
So the militant lesbian movement is out to destroy Christianity, and they're doing a damn good job of it under the leadership of Mary Bonato of Maine.
What exactly?
Now,
wait a minute. Hold on. Whoa. Slow down. What exactly are the militant lesbians doing to successfully destroy Christianity and the Christian movement?
Here, they gave you queer marriage in 50 states of your country. In other words, Mary Bonato was the founder of GLAAD, G-L-A-D. I'll give an explanation of Gay Lesbian Advocates and Defenders. And Mary
I'm sorry,
Bonato
how is it exactly that... Wait, just hold on. I'm going to have questions for you, okay? If you are saying things, I have questions, and I want to have a conversation with you about it. Oh, you've got all the answers. Great. So you're the right person to talk to. Okay, so if lesbians are able if lesbians are able to get married, Ferris. So first, you have to listen in order to be able to respond to the question. So if lesbians are
listening. I'm all ears.
When you're talking, you're not listening. So by definition, if your mouth is moving and there's words coming out, you can't possibly be listening. It's impossible to do that. So let's try this now. Okay.
Go right ahead, bro. You can do it.
If what you're saying is that lesbians, by virtue of the fact that they can now actually get married and express publicly love for one another in a some sort of public or private forum or whatever, if they can get married, that's somehow damaging to Christianity? Can you explain how that works?
Certainly is, because Mary Bonato engineered that so nicely right up through the Supreme Court that they've now got curriculum in the schools to send fisting kits into kindergartners.
Fisting kits? What? What did he say?
He said fisting kits, yes.
Can we describe what a fisting kit is?
No, I don't think we can describe that. There's certain things that we can't talk about on broadcast radio, and I think whatever a fisting kit is one of those things.
Well, I know, but I talked to Andrew Breitbart about it shortly before his death, and that's why his murder was moved up by the communists. Because when he was
how do you think the communists killed Andrew Breitbart?
Very easily. All you got to do is read the documentation.
Okay.
The guy was how old?
Hold on.
Old was,
I don't know how we got from gay marriage to fisting kids in kindergarten
to killing Andrew Breitbart.
But let's
oh God,
Ferris, let's just keep this simple. I
think that ship has sailed.
How is it that gay marriage is hurting Christianity? I don't understand that. Keep on topic here, please.
Gay marriage is not since. Let's use the term homosexual and lesbian marriages. Gay means merry, bright, and cheery. I'm gay. I am a gay guy. I'm merry, bright, and cheery.
Okay, man. Call it whatever you want. Homosexual marriage. How is that hurting Christianity? He totally just dropped off the line.
The communist got his ass.
I I don't know what happened there. If that was a technical difficulty, you're welcome to try calling back or call back any other night. I still want the question answered. I don't understand how it is two people doing a thing over here with each other has an effect on your religion.
My heart is heavy that such a sparkling intellect has just been snuffed out by the communists in such a way. I mean, I got to say that these gay and lesbian people that took this man out in such an evil fashion, you ought to be ashamed of yourself.
More on the way. It's Free Talk Live.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealestate.com.
It's Free Talk Live. Dial toll free. Bring up what you want. Our number here is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. We've also got the Discord on-air call-in line rooms over at discord.lrn.fm. The Discord chat has been invaded tonight by people who think they're going to be able to cause some trouble, it looks like. Sometimes things get a little dramatic in there, but that's why we have moderators, and that's why we have the Troll Zone. Yes, that's right, a channel dedicated specifically for people who cannot get along with others. So if that's you, and you reveal yourself as somebody who cannot get along well with others at all, like your intention is to make a mess out of our on-air now room, you will be put into the Troll Zone, and then you'll meet James.
You think you think you know what it's like to troll. You don't know nothing, buddy.
So go on to our Discord server. It's usually a pretty cool place to be over at discord.lrn.fm. Ian and Mark here in the studio tonight. Again, discord.lrn.fm. Let's go to the phones and to the fun here, starting out with Charles in Daytona Beach, listening on YouTube. Go ahead, Charles.
Hey there, man. This is my first time actually tuning into the stream here, and so your guys' Discord is under attack or something.
We'll see about that. Now you're on the radio, right? So there's certain things you can't say on the radio, or else we have to use our magic dump machine on you.
Do you know what a dump machine is?
Absolutely, man.
Do you know what a dump machine is?
Nah, not at all.
Okay, let me explain it to you before you go on and say a variety of words that you can't say on the air. We have a magic time machine that moves us 7 seconds back in time. So if you say one of the words, we will drop you, then we will dump you, and the things that you say will not appear on the radio. Go right ahead, sir.
All right, what were you calling about?
Oh, no, the dump machine. That's funny. I never heard of that name for it, but I use the same. I stream on Twitch, and unfortunately, you kind of get these people that come in, and they like to request stuff, and it's a real pain. But but yeah, I know a few people. Also, interesting call you guys had earlier about the what do you say, the lesbian militant.
Militant lesbians were destroying Christianity was the claim of the caller. He never backed it up with anything, but that was his claim.
Yeah. It was just it's just weird, I feel like, these days in these countries you get, I see a bit of a more divide, and, everyone likes to talk about it, but you got people that can be as far left or as far right, such as that guy. Just earlier I'm saying, I'm around I used to be around the Texas area, but I moved to Daytona Beach, but I still go back and forth. And a couple months ago I went to Corpus Christi, and they had I don't know if you're familiar with them, the Black Israelites.
Yeah, aren't they the ones that were yelling at that kid?
The kids in
D.C. with the manga hat on.
Yeah, very, very rude, rude people. It seems.
Yeah, they're just, I was getting picked up by a friend. I was like, listen, man, you just go away from that, because they, unfortunately, he is Jewish, and they're not too.
They're not friendly to anybody. From what I can understand, from what we could tell with that situation in D.C., they're mean to Jewish people, black people, anybody that's not in their group. They basically don't like them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. They're just,
it's just an interesting thing. I actually know a guy who is quote unquote in the group, but he's actually he's mixed. He's half black and half white, so it's a bit odd that he would align himself with this group that believes in I guess black supremacy, and him being mixed. And that's kind of what I was bringing up is everyone talks about like a civil war or a race war. It's just, to me, it's interesting. Like, where do excuse me, where do the mixed people sort of fall in?
Yeah, where do you draw the lines? And I think that's an interesting question. And thank you, Charles, for the call tonight. And that's why I don't think that there's any potential for any kind of a race war. I mean, I'm sorry. It's just people are mixed. People are friends with one another. I think for the most part, people are over racism. Yes, there are still racists.
Oh, there's certainly people who are angry about race.
Yeah, but there are still racists on various different sides of things. There's no doubt about it. And yes, those racists now may have the ability to communicate better than ever. They have the internet to kind of bring themselves together with one another, and they can have their own podcasts and their own chat servers or whatever it is they want. But at the same time, I don't think that just because they can be louder now than they've been in the past means that they're any more relevant, or means that they're any more, noteworthy or worthy of being talked about or anything like that.
They are certainly driving politics in some ways. I mean, most of the Democrats out there will state Trump's not the problem; it's the people he's brought out of the woodwork that are the problem, and so therefore they're being driven by the politics of racists. I mean, they're allowing racists to control their lives. It's amazing.
Let's go to Charles in North Carolina, listening online. Go ahead, Charles.
Hey, how's it going? I'm watching on Twitch right now.
Thanks, Charles.
The guy that called in earlier.
LRN.FM. I had to hit the dump button on you. And he was on hold while that other caller was on. Yeah. So, he got the explanation, unless he wasn't paying attention, that you can't say the F word on the radio. Sorry. Hello, Twitch audience. Welcome to the show. It seems like we've had an influx of viewers perhaps tonight.
Welcome,
on
Twitch audience.
Welcome.
This is the real radio, and you may not even listen to one. Maybe when you're in your mom's car.
Maybe when you're in your mom was pregnant with you, you heard it through her belly.
Right. That was a radio, and on the radio, you can't say a variety of words. One begins with an F. One begins with an S. Two of them begin with C's.
C, yeah. Yeah,
don't use those words.
33 whole viewers on Twitch tonight, which is unusually, heavy for our Twitch channel.
Yeah, so. we're being watched by the Twitchers. Hello.
Yes. So welcome to the show here. We do a broadcast radio show, and that's one of the other things they love to complain about in the Twitch chat room is you guys need to get rid of the commercials. It's like, sorry, we're on the radio. Commercials come with radio broadcasts. In this world.
Just the way that goes.
Yeah. So we'll take your calls, your thoughts about what you want. He's flea market penguin on the line on our Discord server. Hello there.
Hey guys, I just wanted to call. I'll make it quick. You guys said some really real stuff that, when we had the American Revolution, we overthrew, the Americans at the time overthrew one set of rich people, and, the next group of people weren't so much better because it was just another group of elites controlling. And then also, you were saying that the military, the war and welfare state basically is basically a massive wealth transfer to the elites and everything. And it's just important to realize that when you say opposition to the state, you're not using the word government for a reason. The word government, the government is is politicians and bureaucrats. It's bureaucracy. And the government is powerless without the state, the banks, the resource industries, the heavy manufacturing, the telecommunications. So obviously, those things all kind of form the state, and they exist for each other in a mutual relationship. That's why you have to use Bitcoin to get out of the banks, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we all want decentralized solutions to all these interactions that we do with the tentacles of the state. But what I wanted to talk about is in regards to the race war thing is all these people calling in, these statists, calling in and saying, oh yeah, we're going to have a civil war because they just daring their political opponents to make a first move so they can have a shooting war and shoot all the people they disagree with, they don't like. It's dumb. Are we really going to shoot each other because of a marginal tax rate, or because of trans rights, or because of people's race or whatever's on TV? Absolutely not. I mean, that's not That's not the issue at hand. That's not the real issue that's hurting our country, hurting our freedom, and dropping us further and further down the freedom rankings. It's not, we can have all the, like you said, we have the right to guns, we have the right to free speech, we have that because, the state says, we can have that much. But, I mean, what's the real source of the problem? It's certainly not Democrats or Republicans, and they're not going to shoot each other. There's no way.
Yeah, not going to happen.
Not going to happen. There's way too much to enjoy about life than, starting some sort of a violent race war out there. I think over time people are coming together more so. I mean, as far as getting over racism, I think that's something that we can get past. Maybe not in this lifetime, but maybe in the next couple of generations or so. Thanks for the call tonight. There's more coming up here in moments. This is Free Talk Live. Free Talk Live. Dial toll free. Join us here. Our number is 855-450-FREE, like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. We might have time to get you on tonight. It's Ian here with you.
And Mark.
Don't forget, you can support the show like Jay Lawrence has done. Jay is a Free Talk Live amplifier at the silver level, which means he's doing $5 a month to the AMP program. AMP stands for Advertise, Market, and Promote. It's a way for you to help us get Free Talk Live on more radio stations around the country. Bring new internet listeners on board with the show. We got a couple new progressive talk stations on board with us this week because Norman Goldman quit doing his show, and there's no more than a handful of progressive talk shows in the United States right now. So the handful of progressive stations that are left needed somebody, and we were there to help. So we're on board with a couple new progressive talkers, which is fun.
Since we're libertarian, we're less distasteful than the Republicans.
That's right. Well, we agree with them on some things, just like we agree with some of the Republicans on some things as well here on Free Talk Live. So we continue with your calls and thoughts. Let's go to Reed listening in Daytona Beach. Hello, Reed. You're on Free Talk Live. Reed?
Oh, what's going on?
Hey, we're on the radio.
Hello,
go ahead with your thoughts, please.
Oh, yeah. So, my little thing about the Civil War conspiracy that I don't really see it happening. America, we won't, disagree to a point where we would have to go to war over something like that. I actually kind of,
I know.
We don't know because you haven't said it yet. Sorry.
Back in 2016, when Donald Trump was, the presidential election and stuff, America was divided heavily politically.
True.
During that point. And, I saw, the progressives, the far left Democrats, they were basically, shunning Donald Trump, basically saying, oh, he's all this. And then you have, these groups like Antifa, they were getting light. And then you had all the media, they were basically, shunning Donald Trump so much. And, I actually thought it was going to get so bad to a point where it was going to be a civil war.
But it didn't.
Now, no, it never did. If there was a civil war in America, it would look kind of like Syria because, unlike the last civil war we had, which wasn't even a civil war in the first place, it was a full-fledged actual military combat because it wasn't internal.
Okay.
There were two certified nations. But, it would
interesting viewpoint.
You'd have all these different you'd have all these different factions, all these different viewpoints. You'd have the communists, the anarchists, the far left Democrats, the moderate Democrats, the libertarians sitting back and selling arms to everybody because they're all for the free market economy.
The libertarians will sell all the guns to the people in the Civil War.
That's what the United States should have done between Hitler and Stalin, just sell them arms and let them kill each other.
Thanks for the call, Reed. I appreciate hearing from you. Let's go to Rev. He is on the line, watching us on Twitch over at twitch.lrn.fm. Go ahead, Rev.
Yeah, hey, I wanted to talk about how obesity, the prominent obesity in this country, is by far the most, unfortunately, effective deterrent to any effective revolution.
So what are you saying? People are just too lazy, and so therefore they don't want to get up off the couch to do something?
Yeah, they're too fat, they're too lazy. Let me tell you something right now. and I've been drinking a little bit with the Jim Beam, okay? But I'm gonna tell you something right now.
You've been on hold for 2 hours.
Yeah, I know. You know what I did? I put the phone on speaker because I'm like, I'm not gonna be a retard and just like, oh, I'm butthurt. Like, dude, it's good to see the show this busy. And Mark, as you know, good to talk to you, by the way, Mr. Mark. I did not hit her, Mark. I did not hit her. Like that terrible YouTube movie. You look like Lee Ermey. I like that crew cut.
He does. You're right about that.
Ermey?
R. Lee Ermey, the guy from he's been in so many movies. Yeah.
Full Metal Jacket.
Full Metal Jacket.
Wow,
yeah.
Do you blank? Yeah. Hey, listen.
Rest in peace, by the way. R.I.P. Because he passed away. I think last year or the year before that.
Yeah, he was kind of young to die anyway.
He was. Well, yeah, you're right about that. He always looked so much older than he actually was. Like he
looked. I don't want to
looked.
say that about Mark. Come on, Queen. You're mean. Jeez, girl. Ow.
Mark only just now started looking like R. Lee Ermey with a new haircut. He's got a new haircut.
Hey, tell Mark that a borderline Nazi, borderline fascist, monarchist, like cross between a libertarian and Nazi is listening to a Free Talk and is already a big fan of Call to Freedom and questioning authority. Anyway,
why would I tell Mark that? He's sitting right here.
Yeah, no, I know. It's dumb of me to relay that. Listen, the point is, by the way, that Christian guy, he's a bigger butthole than the Muslim butthole. Okay, they're bigger buttholes because they push gays off buildings and stone women to death. And, of course, the stupid LGBTQ morons say, oh, yes, we love them. They're our friends. And they want to stone you to death, moron. That's why I myself, as a somewhat a queer person, mostly with gender, don't even associate with them anymore. But anyway, you
somewhat queer.
Going to end the show. Huh?
You're somewhat queer.
Yeah, somewhat with the gender. You've seen how. Yeah, I can't say the other word because I'll get blocked with things.
All right, Rev. Thanks for the call. Huh?
No.
Thanks for the call.
I'm not sure what just happened. But he did not use any of the words that he could not use.
He didn't.
Hear that, boys on Twitch?
Despite how drunk he might have been, he didn't say things he wasn't supposed to say.
It's a marker of adulthood.
Let's go to somebody else who's technically an adult. Sarah in New Mexico. You're on Free Talk Live. Hello.
Yes, this new gun control law. Pretty much
Which one?
knew that it was
Which one?
Well, they passed like 3 different laws.
Do you mean the New Mexico ones?
Yeah, the New Mexico ones.
The ones that the sheriffs are publicly refusing to obey, that they're refusing to enforce? Those?
Right, yeah, right, those. I think there's about 26 counties now.
Yeah.
But I pretty much knew from the get-go it was never going to go anywhere. I knew this rejection was going to happen. Do you know how I knew?
No.
Well, the red light camera tickets, they tore it up, they spit in it, and they used it to start fireplaces. That's what they used it for.
Hold on. The sheriffs didn't tear up the red light camera tickets. Who's they?
So the people here,
Okay.
when they got the red light camera tickets, they tore it up.
Good.
And they use it to fire starters, at the fireplaces.
Smart. That's efficient.
I don't know if it's smart, but go ahead.
Well, I mean, it's putting it to good use, It's a piece of paper.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Start a fire.
My whole point is that they make a law, and they tear it all up. They don't obey.
Yeah, ignore that crap. That's what more people need to do.
Good people ignore bad laws, Sarah.
Absolutely, Sarah. So are you a good person or not?
Well, what I'm saying is, why would they follow this gun control law? Well, okay, just because it was passed and the governor signed it doesn't mean nothing to the people of New Mexico, because they've had guns any way they want for the last 100 years.
Yeah, so ignore that crap. That's what people ought to do, is just ignore bad laws. Thank you, Sarah, for the call tonight. I appreciate it. Because you're right, Mark. That is what good people are supposed to do. Which comes back around to that conversation we had earlier in the show where this one guy was saying that he believed that there was going to be some kind of a war between socialists and people that just want to be free. And I said, I'm not sure how many people just want to be free. And he says, there's a bunch of them out there. They're laying low, waiting for the right time. And this, I think, is a mistake. If it's true that there are all these people out there who just want to be free and they're laying low, how about instead of waiting for some sort of violent shoe to drop, for the shots to begin being fired, for your time to rise up in violence against whoever it is that you're going to rise up in violence against, How about instead of that, if there are that many of these people out there, how about they just stop obeying the bad laws? How about just don't obey? How about clog the system? Throw yourselves into the gears of the system and make it so it just grinds to an absolute halt, because nobody will obey all these bad laws. They won't obey the stupid business regulations that keep them out of business or keep them from competing. There's so many things that people could do before going to violence. There's so many more options besides there's the ballot box and then the cartridge box, right? No, there's also non-cooperation. There's also civil disobedience. There's refusal. There's when it comes to from the states to the federal government, there's nullification. There's a lot of different options where people can say no. You don't have to just hide out and obey, because that's what they're doing when they're hiding, right? They're going along to get along. They're not popping their head up above the waves so they can have it cut off. And I don't blame somebody for doing that. But I don't think it's going to be a success if you're waiting for that right moment to make things violent, because then you're just going to maybe displace one government and then build a whole new one right in its place, because you use the very same tools that you didn't want used against you, which was violence.
It's called a revolution because it revolves.
Goes back around to the beginning.
Right. We need something new.
Exactly. So we'll talk to you tomorrow whenever we come back. 7 o'clock Eastern Time is when we start the show. Meantime, you can join us online over at freetalklive.com.
All right, it's another edition of the Edgington Post show. It's Mark Edge.
And Laura.
And Laura does not ascribe to the notion of using a fake name on the air, so she'll just go with just the one name. You like Sting or
That's
Prince.
right.
That's right, just Laura. So what we're doing here is we were talking this morning. It is pretty early here in Acapulco, Mexico, and it's not our final day. It's the day before our final day. Is that right?
Right.
And we were kind of talking about the wrap-up of this month that we've spent in Acapulco. And you thought that listeners might be interested in some of the wrap-up, some of the things that we were thinking about.
Basically, our experiences of living in a different place for a month, and a third world country, and the differences between living in the United States and living here, and some of the cultural differences. And we've done this before on some of our trips, so I thought maybe we should do it on this one.
Right. So this is an after show for Free Talk Live. It's for our podcast audience. If you don't want to hear what two people going on vacation in Acapulco for a month, vacation's not even the right term.
I was just going to say, vacation's really not the right term. It was really living here and working here for a month. Jack and I still did homeschooling stuff. You still did your work almost every day. You did take a couple of days where you took, some half days, and we went and did something. But
let's talk about some of those things that we did. But if you don't want to hear that stuff, tune out. If you do want to hear that stuff, we're going to talk about it.
Right. Well, so we got here on the 1st, and we rented this house, and Ian talked
1st of February.
1st of February, and Ian
2019.
And Ian talked a lot about this on the air because he came to visit us shortly after we arrived. So 6 days after we arrived, Ian came, and he was with us for a week.
Not so bad.
No, it was absolutely fine. It was pleasant having him here. We went out and did some things with him, walked around.
He really likes the authentic food.
Right.
He really likes the low prices
right.
that are in. Basically, food and stuff here is at least half price.
Right.
And in some cases, you can get really low-cost stuff. So you can get a meal at the local Zocalo, the town square, of some tacos made at a food truck for 40 pesos, which is
about $3.50.
No, 40 pesos.
No,
is
$2.50.
$2.20.
Yeah,
tops.
$2.50.
$2.20, and it's hard to find a meal for $2.20 for double $2.20 in the U.S.
And basically that filled you up, or filled me up. You and Ian did 1.5 each.
Yeah, 1.5. So it's 5 little tacos.
Right.
That's one order. And it's, it's filling. I probably should have stuck with 5, but I didn't. I wanted to try all the different flavor combinations that I could get out of their stuff there. So, it's definitely low cost. Now, some things are more here.
Right.
Electronics. If you need something that's electrical. My mother needed, or no, not my mother, excuse me, Lynn Ulbrich stayed with us for a little while, and she needed to get a
cord for her computer.
Yeah, she somehow misplaced her laptop.
I think she left it at the hotel.
She thinks so, yeah. Either way, she needed a plug. We went to the Radio Shack, got a universal plug. It was $40 for that universal plug, because electronics are not low cost here.
Right. I think, obviously things that they have to import are going to be more expensive.
Yeah, duties and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
No doubt. So what were some of the events that we did here? Do you want to go chronologically or...
I don't know that I could. I've been posting on Facebook pretty regularly.
Yes, but you post privately.
As we go along. Well, there's some that you shared, I thought.
I do share some of the things, but usually just bits and pieces.
Right.
So, for instance, we went to the island, one of the islands for the movie.
La Roqueta?
Well, I was talking about the island that we were just at.
Oh, okay.
So Rambo was filmed there.
Right. And that really, it wasn't an island. It was a lagoon. The lagoon was within
the island was within the lagoon, I thought.
No.
Okay.
We were just on the edge of, the side of the lagoon.
The Embarcadero town there?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll take your word for it. Thought it was an island, and it was certainly secluded.
It was very secluded.
And
it kind of reminded me of, like, Thailand. Like, they had there was
lots of palm trees, coconut palms.
Yeah, and the lagoon that people were swimming in just kind of looked more exotic.
It was gross. So what happened was we decided to take a day. What was it? What day of the week was it? Was it a Sunday?
I think it was a Sunday.
So we decided to take a day, do touristy things, and we all hopped in 2 cabs because there were so many of us that we couldn't all go in one vehicle. So it was our family and another visiting family, and then a couple of celebritarians that were hanging out with us. So minor celebrities. And we decided to go to this beach that's nearby. It's actually quite far from. We wouldn't walk there. Obviously.
Right, it's about a half an hour away, but it was really nice and interesting difference too between beaches here and beaches like we're from Florida and we're used to our beaches in Florida. These beaches, when you go to the beach here, is more of a eating event.
Yeah. So they've got tables and chairs and
sun covers.
Some kind of umbrella or something like that. And then there's not as much laying out on the beach on a towel,
right?
Which you see a lot of in Florida, and you don't see very much of here.
No,
it's more sort of sitting in a plastic chair. Underneath a sun cover, and all right, I prefer that, honestly. I don't like sitting out in the sun.
Well, I think it's better. The sun is very intense here, and so I can see why they do it, but it's just a difference.
Pretty quickly, a guy with a horse comes along,
right?
And one of our friends, she decides that she wants to ride the horse, and as she was doing it, I began to more and more. I was petting the face of the horse. He reminded me of my horse when I was a kid, Saber, and I got a little nostalgic. And I'm like, I'm going to ride this horse. And so she rode her horse, and of course that's boring because it wasn't me. And then I decided to get on the horse, and the guy kind of let me do more than he let her do, but I know how to ride a horse. At least some training. I mean, by no means. You shouldn't turn me over to train your horse in dressage or anything. But I've ridden a horse before. And so I took him around, and he was kind of an old nag. He didn't want to work or anything like that. And let's not forget, he's got a 200-pound dude on his back. So,
in the hot sun. On the sand.
Yeah. But I took him where it was easy for him to go. And he'd canter quite a bit, and which banged my nether regions against his midriff, which was quite uncomfortable. I wasn't prepared for all of that. And
in a swimsuit.
Yeah. But anyhow, it was really nice to get back on a horse and do that. So I think we have a friend in Florida who has some horses, and I think I'm going to ride next time we're near her. And that was a lot of fun. Also, after the horse, we took a long walk down the beach. You and I like to, if we go to a beach, we like to walk up and down the beach. Mm-hmm. And so we, got to see everything, and it was, a bunch of low-cost motels, and there was a band taking a picture on the beach.
I think it was like publicity pictures or something.
Pictures.
Because they had all their band equipment, on sand.
Yep.
With no amplifiers or anything, so it wasn't like they were playing; they were just taking pictures.
And we got to see some, boats out that were doing some fishing and things like that. That was all kinds of fun.
And this beach in particular had big waves.
Yeah.
Whereas the other beaches that we've gone to in Acapulco in the bay really doesn't have a lot of wave action. It's protected, so it doesn't really have that kind of thing.
The boys enjoyed that.
So this had big waves, and so we had a little bit of jumping around in some bigger waves and getting knocked down by the waves and things like that.
Yeah, it's good, clean fun. Good, clean family fun getting knocked down by waves and drug out by the undertow. And, having to swim sideways because of the rip current and all that good
none
stuff.
of that occurred.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you ever get caught in a rip current that's dragging you out, swim sideways. If you're in an undertow, do your best to stand up. That's my advice for you. All right, so sideways to the shore. I mean, parallel to the shore, to be clear what sideways means. And then we kind of packed it up. We decided we'd take a boat tour through this lagoon thing.
We were sold a boat tour by, some people who were like, "Oh yeah, it's great. You go out on this boat," and I was expecting to go through some mangroves and some other things, and they're like, "Oh, take a little tour of this lagoon where Rambo 2 was filmed." And we're like, "Okay, sure." And then it became Gilligan's Island.
Right.
Real quick.
It just kept going. So we didn't ask the length of this tour, which certainly would have been a good thing to ask.
Right.
We probably would have been lied to anyway.
But there's a language barrier. And so we're just like, sure, we'll go on the boat tour of the lagoon. How, we're thinking it's just a little go around the lagoon. First of all, the lagoon is huge.
It's huge, but there's no tour either.
Right. And
the guy takes, he puts you in there's a long boat with a bunch of people in it. Not just us, a bunch of people. And they, took us out on a motor on it. And he doesn't say anything.
Until we got out to Bird Island.
Right. We got out to the island they called Bird Island, which had some birds on it and cats.
Yeah, weird.
I don't know what the cats were doing there, but besides lounging, I don't know how they got there. And he gave some speech in Spanish, which, of course, we barely understood.
Right.
And then at some point we end up going to this other place that we were just talking about, this
restaurant-y thing.
Yeah, I don't even know if I want to call it that. Mm-hmm. So we arrive. There's a
more
dock.
like a bar.
It's very rustic, Mexican kind of rustic. So we get there. There's this kind of muddy beach area thing that has a bunch of plastic tables and plastic chairs, and we kind of camp out on one of those, and then begin our search.
As all the Americans start bemoaning that we're going to be there for an hour and a half,
right.
And Jack actually started crying.
Right, he was weeping. I can't believe this. I'm going to die. Then he's out playing in the water before too long. But everybody, all the Mexicans, they're out playing in the water and having a great old time. There's a boat dragging them around in tubes, and we saw all that. Anyway, we head around there. We find a kind of a bar, just a hut that serves drinks. And there's a couple of other people that are vending things. And I think that the boat owner or the boat tour guide basically wants you to come here and spend money, and that's going to.
He did actually come around with a fish. Remember?
Yeah, I don't know what he was doing with.
He was
fish.
trying to sell us a fish.
That's what you presume he was.
No. I asked Renee, and he said basically they're very good. He brought a live fish around, and
we thought it was a science.
We were like,
please observe the fish.
Right, we were confused, and basically he was like, "Do you want us to cook this fish for you?" I
see. Yeah.
And
poor fish that's drowning to death or dying.
Right there. But anyway, nice. It was so different cultures, different things.
Sure.
It was pretty funny. The American women who were like, "Why are you showing me this fish?"
This disgusting thing in front of me. Well, not to be outdone, there are 2 caiman in a cage, a chicken hutch.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure what we're going to call
this. And all
this.
sorts of turtles.
Hurricane fencing.
Yeah.
In an area that's probably, call it 16 by 16.
At the most.
Feet.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't do meters still, ladies and gentlemen. And, call it 3 meters by 3 meters. I don't know. 4 meters by 4 meters, something like that.
Probably
and
4.
There's a couple of caiman. One of them rather large. It could have been a croc. One could be a caiman. One could have been a croc. I'm not entirely sure, what's going on here, but mostly it's a issue of having something for people to see. And there you go. Oh, the toilets were great, by the way. They have a toilet, and there seemed to be plumbing, but it didn't work like a toilet. It didn't have a plunger or anything. You didn't use it, right?
No, I didn't.
Yes, no, I did. Jack had to use the bathroom, so I followed up with him. You took a bucket of water that, they had a cistern thing there that you could get some water out of, in a small bucket, and you took the bucket and you flushed the toilet with that by just throwing water in there.
Kind of like when the electric's out.
When the electric's out. Right. And so, that was our adventure in this kind of weird, yucky place. But, it was very authentic.
It was very authentic. It's certainly an experience that we'll never forget. And, as soon as you gave the alcohol to the Americans, they were fine.
Yeah, so as soon as we, all of us got our drinks, then, whatever. Tra-la! It's fun. And, so you guys got to do some stuff while we were at Acapulco. What did you guys do? You went to the beach?
We went to the beach, yeah. We really didn't, we just kind of hung around, went, did a little bit of, exploring and eating and beaching, and that was that. But what was interesting, is right after you came back from Acapulco, we went to the water park here.
That's true.
And, just the differences in the water park. Like, a lot of these things would not fly in the U.S.
There was a lot of rust. It's hard to feel terribly comfortable. Now, this thing's right on the beach, mind you.
Right.
It's hard to feel terribly comfortable when the steel tubing is rusting. In some cases, rusted out.
And the cement is cracking.
Cement and things.
The stairs that you're going up.
But, there's a lot of, it'll be fine here. And you know what? It was fine. Right. It was a fun water park, and we had a good time, and it was low cost, and there was a dolphin show there.
That was weird, yeah. There was a dolphin show at the water park.
It was a good dolphin show.
It was a good dolphin show. It's just not what, you would expect to see in the United States. That was odd.
Yeah. So we went zip lining. I guess it's the longest zip line in the world that travels over water.
Right.
It's rather minute distinction, but you really enjoyed that. I was kind of terrified. They take you, they slap a helmet on you, they, give you some kind of training video that they then tell you different things once they strap you in, and you just hang in this
hammocky kind of thing, yeah.
Like some pulleys on a cable, and then they let you go, and you go zing down
to the other side,
and it kind of bows in the middle down to the lowest point, which is closer to the end than it is to the beginning, which makes sense, right? You need the momentum, and then you got to get. Then you're slowing down as you're coming up to.
Yeah, and there was some kind of braking system.
Yeah, they send this thing out on ropes that kind of catches you. Yeah. Then they hold you out over the abyss
and take pictures, which made Mark very uncomfortable.
It's just I've gone through this thing. It was like a full minute. Coming down this thing. I don't scream or anything like that, but I called upon gods whom I do not believe. I mean, if I die here, or what's going to happen? For me, that kind of thing it's terrifying. I just don't like that stuff much, but I like to push my boundaries. It's a good thing. And then this guy wants to hang me over this thing and here, smile. I'm not smiling.
You're 2 feet from the edge. Smile.
Just pull me over here. So, whatever. Ultimately, it was certainly an adventure and worth having. And, I don't know what to tell you.
The botanical garden we just did, which was interesting. So a botanical garden, in the U.S., you're going to, anything in the U.S., you're going to come to like some kind of entrance or a gate or something like that, and you're going to pay, and then you're going to enter. And this was not like that. It was on the campus with a college.
Loyola campus in Acapulco.
It seemed like an art college of some sort, or at least we saw
some artsy stuff. I mean, they probably waste kids' time and parents' money here too.
And we were kind of confused, and so were the people in front of us. We kind of missed the small exit. There was a stairway off to the side with a small sign that's like, the botanical garden is up these stairs. And so we finally did that. At no point did somebody say, here's a map, pay me some money, here's a map.
You kind of expected that.
Yeah. And because we had seen online that it was like 40 or 50 pesos a person to go through to the gardens, and we're walking. We missed, I guess there was a map thing that we were too busy looking at the water feature and things. We walked right past it. And then almost all the way to the top, we came upon some buildings, and apparently that's where you pay.
Right, you have to basically walk through the botanical gardens.
The whole gardens,
to
basically.
find the place to pay. I would imagine there's a lot of people that wander through this thing and never get the opportunity, never pay, choose not to pay.
If you don't go that far, you never pay.
Right. So they collected a little bit of money from us. They were still sweeping up. I mean, there was people all over this. Well, we see people now and then in the botanical gardens, but the people that were at the buildings, the two locals that were at the buildings, looked like people who had just gotten there, were sweeping and cleaning up and those kind of things, and they were preparing for their day, so they didn't really look like they had taken money from anyone else up until that point. So anyway, we gave them 40 pesos. We got their tickets or whatever, saw their little film, and headed on out. We did mind you. We hike, so we walked this thing all the way to the end to where we found like the fencing and some places that hadn't really been cleaned up and a whole bunch of stuff.
Right. I think we hiked beyond where there was a sign that basically said, proceed at your own risk or whatever, however it was worded in Spanish. And so it really wasn't the nice, defined trail.
Yeah. More pristine.
With stairs and, very defined area. So it was more like a hike. And I was like, hey, this is like we're hiking in Mexico. And we actually, I think, got to the end, but it never said, like, you're entering private property or whatever. But all of a sudden we
found a fence.
We came upon a house.
Well, a structure.
A structure.
I don't know what the hell it was. It doesn't
seem
like a house.
And beyond that was another structure.
Yes.
And we heard some dogs barking. So I think there were people living in that area. But, so we wandered around there for a while, saw some really cool plants, and we liked doing that.
So those are a couple of things we did. We didn't come on this for a vacation. We came on this to basically do what we, live in a different place for a little while and see what that was like. Acapulco beats the heck out of New Hampshire in February. So God bless all you folks in New Hampshire keeping us free or whatever you're doing up there. Shoveling the freedom into little piles and slipping on the freedom now and then and breaking parts of your body. We really appreciate that. But I wanted to spend some time elsewhere outside of New Hampshire during the cold, and all in all, I guess I want to sort of wrap this up and say what I thought about this and what I would think for other people. Now, I'm a big believer that, not everything's right for everybody. I used to be of the opinion everybody needs to move to New Hampshire that believes in the ideas of liberty. If you don't, then you're a coward. You suck. What's wrong with you? I did it. Where's your guts? And I just don't believe that any longer. So if you want to, explore different places, and for me, I think about the ideas of liberty when I'm when I'm going different places. If you want to explore different places, then by all means, that Acapulco is one of the places people are going. I do not think that any advancements in the ideas of liberty are going to occur in Acapulco. If you want to go someplace and hang out with, you come here, you hang out with the local libertarians or anarchists, as they call themselves, or whatever, and you like this place, you should absolutely stay. We have some friends that live here. They're much more reclusive. They work on doing voiceover stuff, and they don't get out much. But for them, it is great. They enjoy the low costs. They have a gorgeous view at their house. A top 10 view, basically, at their home, and it's just it's great for them. And I think you've got to kind of look at, what do you want? What does freedom mean to you? One of the things that a place like Acapulco or many places around the world affords you is the ability to take less money and amplify it. Right? You can take, if you had, I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't be able to tell you what you're going to retire on. But you'll get twice the lifestyle someplace else.
So one of the things that, was a different experience for us, obviously, this is not the lifestyle we normally live, is, we rented a pretty large house. There are 6 bedrooms, 5 bathrooms here, and it is all this like slick tile. And when our friend set it up for us, she said, "Do you want my maid to come and clean for you?" And my sensibilities on that.
Right. You're not a maid.
I'm not a maid kind of person. And I was like, and it kind of, I don't know. It just isn't my sensibilities.
You needed her.
But I needed her.
There was no way that you're going to spend your entire vacation cleaning up this house after how many people are here and all that stuff. And, so what did Maria, who's, by the way, the only thing I want to take back from Mexico is Maria. She's great.
Right. She was wonderful.
So what did Maria cost?
Maria, it felt so bad. She came and worked for us for like half a day, and we paid her basically $20 US.
Okay. So you can get a maid and it's probably high, folks.
That's what our friend told us. She said, we pay more than what is the going rate. Yep. When I said, I feel bad about that. And she's like, don't. She's like, she's thrilled to have a job where she can get that much.
Great. And we're going to give her some. We had to buy some things,
right.
And we're
everything
just
that we bought here basically is going to Maria and
things
her family.
Don't go to waste here. But ultimately, if you want to have, you can have a gardener and a maid at a place like this, and you don't pay much for it. So that's a lifestyle upgrade. However, if you want to have a lot of electronics, the United States may be a better choice for you.
Right.
For me, I found for the first 2 weeks or so, I could really tolerate all the Mexican food. But after 2 weeks, I'm kind of the opinion that I've had enough Mexican food for now. I like Mexican food once a week on Taco Tuesday. That's when I want to have it. Now, mind you, this is not northern Mexican food. This is southern Mexican food. So, but anyway, it's not quite as regional tasting, I think. But nonetheless, I've had enough of having Mexican food. I don't want to do that for a month. So, but Acapulco's cosmopolitan. We found a sushi restaurant that was great.
Right.
Supposedly, there's an Italian restaurant that we never quite made it to that was great. There's a German restaurant that is certainly
we went to twice.
Twice, fabulous. Hilda. And so you can get lots of different types of food here. But there's, you're giving up things when you're going to a foreign country. It's not America. Things are different.
And I think that's the thing that, we had some exposure to, especially having visitors, that it was like maybe some culture shock for them, that no, this is not America. You're not going to get the things that you think you're going to get. Even when we went to the restaurant, we got tacos the one time for Jack, and we're like, these are not what we were expecting for tacos. They were like rolled and fried.
Right. They looked more like little egg rolls in some
right.
ways. But I don't know what they used to define or what meaning they have behind the word taco, but it wasn't a taco by my standards.
Right.
It wasn't even a soft taco.
Right.
Like we distinguish in America between a hard taco and a soft taco. They don't distinguish like that down here. I haven't seen a hard taco.
No.
So, what were some of the other things that Americans sort of confronted here? Even me, I don't.
Right. Well, the water situation.
You're right. So probably best not to brush your teeth with tap water.
Right. Which is, I had to go and buy peroxide because you just kept on rinsing your toothbrush in the sink. And I was like, stop doing that. There's a bottle of water next to the sink.
I don't
for
break
that.
habits easily.
So went and bought some peroxide so that I could douse your toothbrush in peroxide.
And there's no telling whether or not the water is bad or good. You just
don't know.
Know and don't do it. I believe I got sick from brushing my teeth the last go around, and I had like the chills and things. I got Montezuma's Revenge real good. This go around, I had intestinal stuff, but not really any discomfort. Otherwise, just sort of some urgency now and then. By the way, those charcoal pills really work. If you have these issues, try some charcoal pills. It gives you a lot more comfort and control. But I kind of wondered to myself, who was this caveman, this Bronze Age genius that said, "Let's eat the burnt wood. That'll make my food better. That'll make my tummy feel better." Really strange stuff. Yeah, ramping it up. What would rate your trip on a scale of 1 to 10, and tell me what you would tell people who were thinking about coming.
Well, I think that the experience of spending a month in someplace gives you a lot more of what it's like living in a place than just going for a week. So I think that we got a lot more experience of what it's like to live here. Now, obviously, we're not living like most of the locals are. We have a really nice house by standards here.
Right, that's worth mentioning. We got a 6-bedroom, 5-bath house for something like $1,100, plus the cost of the maid,
and
plus the cost of the electric.
And the pool person.
And the pool person, which was cheap.
Which was, I
think that the pool person was ultimately a waste, in my opinion.
All relatively cheap. But it's an experience of the culture that I don't think you would get otherwise, being kind of like figuring it out, like, oh, this is where you go to do this, and this is a good place for that. And so we got a really small taste of that. One of the things that is, odd for us here is, this house is beautiful, but it's a Mexican house. Like, it's not sealed up. The ants are everywhere.
Yeah, there's ants. If Jack, wanders around with a granola bar, obviously nobody can eat a Nature Valley granola bar and not drop bits of it on the ground. So, he's not going to pay attention because, well,
he's
people,
10.
He's not just that, but I mean, he's just. People just don't pay attention to what the crumbs they drop.
Right.
Well, you're going to find out pretty quick because the ants are going to be in little piles eating those crumbs.
Right. I have become a serial killer of ants at this house because you drop crumbs on a tile floor and they're there before you know it.
There were a few roaches when we first arrived, but we've got those handled at this point.
We did have to...
The trick, by the way, is to keep standing water off your counters.
Yeah, we did have to go and buy some spray and sprayed around the perimeters of the house a little bit.
There's that too.
But obviously I didn't want to do that on our counters that we're fixing food on, so I actually ended up looking up on the internet and doing a spray bottle of dish soap and water and just wiping the ants down with that, basically just genocide.
Yeah, and a vacation is always going to you're always going to spend more time doing some things that you would have made more efficient in your regular life. So if you've got a problem with food acquisition taking longer than you want it to, then maybe vacation's not even for you. I don't know.
Right, and there's certain people.
There's always cruises, right?
Right.
Like you can.
There's certain people who have, food allergies and dietary things that, that wouldn't work for them because, we go to the grocery store, in the United States, we're used to getting exactly what we want. We know exactly what we want. You come to a foreign country and you're not necessarily going to get the same things.
No.
Or they're not going to be available. Like I went to the grocery store the one day and with some friends, and they had gotten some frozen Snicker bar-y kind of ice cream things. And they're like, oh, when we see these, we buy them. And I was like, oh, okay. And we went like a week later, and you were looking for some ice cream. And I was like, oh, they got these Snicker bar-y things, ice cream bars. And I looked, and they were not available.
Yeah. It's in many cases, things are a bit different. For instance, hamburgers and pizza here, generally you should avoid them.
Right.
I mean, you probably get pizza at a place in your town where you think this is the best pizza that at least you can find locally. Sometimes people from like New York or Chicago will be like, you gotta get it from Nicky Fazoli's, and that's the best pizza, right? Or whatever it is that you've got to get your pizza in this particular place or that particular. Most people, it's right in their general vicinity. This is great pizza. I haven't found anything. I had some food item at the hotel, the Princess, which I will declare from the mountaintops to be the worst thing that you could still call pizza. It was awful. It was like a big cheesy pillow thing with some, I don't know, maybe there were pepperonis. I don't know. It was awful. And I had other people. Ian took a bite and wouldn't even finish his. Richard, who was sitting in with us, he's like, he ate a whole piece to be able to say he calls himself a committed omnivore. And he's like, yes, I want to make sure that I've eaten the worst thing I could call a pizza. And, that's what you're going to experience if they're just trying to replicate our food as opposed to, look, it looks like a pizza. Americans will spend money on it. They'll spend extra money on it because this is American food. It's awful. So, some things more than others. Hey, Jack, you want to tell me a little bit about your trip here? Do you have any things that you want to say? You got to talk into a microphone.
No.
No, nothing you want to say about the trip to Acapulco? Okay.
No, I guess not.
All right.
But we had actually a lot of fun being at this house in February with a pool. We did every day, got a little bit of family time in the pool.
Yep, Marco Polo was played.
Yep, lots of Marco Polo played.
Squirt and squirt. The big pool noodle squirt gun things at each other.
Right, exactly. So that was really great. And for us,
Jack availed himself of cheap Legos and got a couple of low-cost Legos with some of the money he earned.
They weren't really low cost, honey.
They were lower.
No, they weren't.
They were. I looked at the pricing.
Okay, fine.
All right. Let's wrap it up.
Okay. I think that the cultural differences that we experience, and obviously walking around and seeing big potholes in the middle of the sidewalk, or not even potholes, like the uncovered manholes kind of thing, so kind of odd things. Pollution was one of the things. Litter, I guess, yeah. And this is one of the things that I thought of was, I'm old enough to remember the whole give a hoot, don't pollute campaign that went on in the 70s.
Maybe it was the 80s too.
Was it the 80s too?
Yeah. Well, I can remember the Indian with the tear running down his
face.
That was very powerful to me.
Right, exactly. So I think Americans are a little bit more, I don't even know if you want to say educated or brainwashed or whatever, about not polluting or not littering much more than here. We saw a lot.
I didn't see littering going on, though, Laura. I mean, there was litter, but I think that the problem is bad trash collection. People have, the dogs run free here, right? Like you can see their testicles, so they run free, right? Once they have testicles, then you're going to have stray dogs. And they're running around, and people leave their trash in bags, often near their doorstep for the trash man to come get. Well, if the trash man doesn't come at exactly the time you leave it, then some dog is going to get in there and tear into it and spread things around. Well, the trash man's not going to come around and pick up all the little bits that have been, scattered hither and yon. And I think that in a lot of cases, that's what we're talking about. Certainly when I see 8 beer bottles lined up along the side of the road, I'm presuming somebody sat there, probably 2 people, hopefully, sat there and just killed off, an 8-pack or whatever the hell they had. I mean, I just came up with a random number. But I've seen quite a few beer bottles in a location. That says to me that somebody was drinking and didn't take their trash with them. But I think a lot of this just comes from bad trash pickup. They've got dumpsters here, and people have to walk to them, and I guess they don't want to walk in some cases, so they have a trash man who comes and picks it up and takes it there or something. I don't know. We just, every day, would, while I'm on our walk out and drop it off in the dumpster.
Right. So there's a different cultural thing around garbage that we
supposedly one of the richest men in the world lives down the street here,
right?
And he's on a road that's kind of gross,
right?
I can't understand how he doesn't put up with, or how he puts up with this this garbage. You'd think he'd just hire somebody to do some stuff, clean up the road,
right? And in some instances, you can't do much about the dog poop when you have wild dogs.
Yeah,
or
sure.
Not wild dogs, but stray dogs. Yeah. Just wandering your streets. So there's going to be dog poop.
Well, there's dog poop on the streets of London, of Paris. Yeah. So, you're not like you're going to get away from that. But America's a different place than even Europe. You've got to travel around and see these things. All right, that's 40 minutes, folks, so we're going to wrap this up.
I guess we should.
All right, thanks.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.